welcome to the Thursday, April 27th, 2017 regular session of the Xenia City Council. We've been in special session since 6 p.m. this evening. Apologies for a few minutes late start. We were discussing the Simon Kenton RFP, and for the audience just joining us on the TV, the council voted to direct the city manager to negotiate with Simon Kenton Bridges of Hope for the possession of the Simon Kenton facility. At this time, we're ready to start our regular session, and we'll begin with an invocation by by Pastor Mike Hancock from Xenia Nazarene Church. If you would please come forward and offer the prayer, sir, and we'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice President Smith. If you would rise with me for the invocation and pledge, please.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the many blessings that each of us has received. Your name is majestic, and at this time of year we see your majesty all around us in the beautiful springtime. We're thankful, Lord, that we can have a relationship with you, and we can draw from your wisdom and strength when ours is small. I pray that you'll bless this meeting tonight, that you'll give wisdom to our city council members and to our city leaders, those that are elected and those that are employed. I pray, Lord, that your peace would be in this meeting and bring unity to our community. There are a lot of issues that bring tension, but we know that you can be the great reconciler. You can be the great mediator. We pray that your presence would be here in a very special way, and that all of us would remember to be people of integrity and to walk the way that you want us to walk, and to be an example and role model to those around us. I pray that you'll bless all the proceedings tonight, continue to bless our wonderful community, our schools, our city, our public works, all that's happening in the beautiful city of Xenia. Lord, we give it all to you, and we give ourselves to you. We're thankful that you hear our prayer, and we pray this prayer in the name of Jesus the Nazarene. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Hancock and Vice President Smith. May I have roll call, please?
Vice President Smith.
Here.
Councilman Wallace.
Here.
Councilman Louderback.
Here.
Councilwoman Mays.
Here.
Councilwoman Mills.
Here.
Mayor Bayless.
Here.
President Engel.
Here. Thank you. May I have a motion, please, for approval of minutes for the April 13th, 2017 special and executive session, please?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Louderback. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Wallace. Discussion or question on the minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Abstain.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Abstain.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now a motion, please, for the April 13th, 2017 regular session minutes.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on these minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Abstain.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Abstain.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time on our agenda, we have we have two special presentations. First by the Xenia Community Schools Superintendent, Mr. Denny Morrison.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I certainly appreciate and like to thank City Council for the opportunity to come this evening and speak with you about a very important matter. And it's wonderful to have so many representatives from the Xenia community here this evening. We all want what is best for the children of this community. This is my fourth year as superintendent of schools in Xenia. And you've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. I have the best job in the city of Xenia. I'm so proud to be the superintendent. With me this evening, I have our board president, Ms. Pam Callahan. I'd like to start off by saying just a few words about Xenia schools. You know, we often hear about the things that aren't going well, but at the same time, we don't always hear about the things that are going well. So I'd like to share some very positive things with you. First of all, from an enrollment standpoint, our enrollment remains steady. After a decade of decline of about 100 students per year, we are now, as I said, in very good shape. We are operating right now 212 students more than the state projected that we would have. Second of all, from a financial standpoint, our district is in very good shape. I hate to say that we're running our school district like a business, but we are. And we are making sure that we have what business would like to see is more than a 60-day carryover balance. So we are in good shape there. I'd like to tell you also that we're adding programs. For years we had to cut programs. Now we're adding programs. We want to make sure that every child has something during their day that excites them, all right, about coming to school to learn. So we're very pleased about that. Also like to say that we have technology improvements and increases. We have added 2,700 Chromebooks over the last 2 years. All right, we now have enough Chromebooks for every child in our school district. Also like to say that we have STEM classes, science, technology, engineering, and math, for every single child in grades 6 through 12 if they choose to take that option. I'd also like to say that in grades 4 and 5, we're offering robotics, all right, to our students. So obviously, we're definitely preparing them well. I'd also like to comment about our students, and this really, sometimes gets forgotten because you read about the one student that does something that they shouldn't be doing. But we've got great kids in Xenia, and I tell you that because they are giving back to the community. They know right from wrong. They're doing what they're supposed to all the time. Again, I'm just so proud of them. And when I was growing up, my mom used to say to me, these are old-fashioned values. That's what our kids are practicing right now. And again, I'm so pleased with that. We have programs such as we have programs that like Pennies for Patients. We have donations raised for leukemia and lymphoma. We have baskets for battle, all right, for cancer patients. We have blood drives that our high school students participate in, and we of course recognize our veterans every opportunity that we get. So we don't ever want to forget how fortunate we are, all right, that we're in Xenia. We also have a 5-star preschool. All right, that 5 years ago had 85 students, that is currently approaching 300 students. And as you know, 90% of brain development takes place before the age of 5. So I'm so pleased with the fact that we've got these 3, 4, and 5-year-olds coming to school, all right, every single day. And it's not a babysitting service. They are learning academics, so they're getting a great start. I'd also like to mention briefly our virtual academy. This is something that's near and dear to me. All right, we have 74 students right now that come every day to our virtual academy, and this classroom is right next to my office. So I get to go over there and see these young people every single day. These are students that when they left middle school, got to high school and had difficulties, whether they had maybe a medical condition, maybe there was a life-changing event in their family, or they just didn't make a good transition from middle school to high school, or we had some that just said they didn't want to learn. They didn't want to put in the effort. Well, we've got 74 students right now coming that were either credit deficient or have dropped out of school. Some of them have kids of their own, and we're working towards helping them get their high school diploma. We're not giving up on them. If one student doesn't graduate, that's too many. All right, so we're working with them. And speaking of graduation rate, our graduation rate for the last 3 years, for the 4-year graduation average has beat the state average by 3% per year, and our 5-year graduation rate has beat the state average by more than 5% every single year. And I'm really excited about this year's graduation because last year's class that was exceptional was offered $4.5 million in college scholarships, and I believe this year's group is going to surpass that. Finally, I'd like to share with you that there is something called 65% solution. What that says is if you're taking 65% of your revenues and you're putting it towards what goes on inside the classroom in a school district, you're going to be successful. We lead Greene County. 73.4% of our revenues are going into what's going on inside the classroom. We're putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak. I'd like to talk a little bit about next Tuesday. As you know, next Tuesday, of course, is Election Day, and on May 2nd, Xenia Community Schools has a $4.2 million bond issue on the ballot. Voter approval of this issue will provide funding for a new combined middle and high school building to replace our outdated buildings of Warner Middle School and Xenia High School. Passage of this issue would also allow Xenia to take advantage of more than $28.5 million that the state is offering to us as if we can raise our local share. Our middle school and our high schools, when they were built, were excellent buildings, but they're past their prime, and basically it would be very costly to put money into them, and the recommendation is to replace them. The state assessment coming from the Ohio Facility Construction Commission, it says that renovations needed for the middle school and high school are more than 2/3 of the cost of constructing new, up-to-date buildings. We're looking at a combined middle and high school because there are so many advantages to that. First of all, it would consist of one single building where our middle school students and our high school students would be located in separate wings. It's the most efficient and most cost-effective way of running the school, much better than two separate buildings. It is the wave, and it's happening across the state of Ohio more and more. And basically, it would be so efficient and so cost-effective. We would have one single mechanical operational plant. We would have one kitchen, so we only need the kitchen equipment and materials. We'd have one auditorium. And as I said, it would be very cost-effective and efficient. But more than that, it would provide new opportunities for our students. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a moment. It would be located, with successful passage, at State Route 42 and US 35. And the cost would be $12.26 per month for $100,000 of property value, or $147 per year. If we're successful next Tuesday, we would be, of course, entering the design phase, and then, of course, we would be finished with the buildings by the 2020-2021 school year. I know that our community has a history of tornadoes, and that's something that I know is extremely important. You know, we're aware of that, and the most recent guidelines, on tornado safety are standards called the ICC 500 and the FEMA P361 for constructing a tornado-resistant structure. We will use those standards in our project, which will include the design of a shelter capable of housing our student population and our staff members. Inside the building. All right, we'll also be adding structural enhancements, including a design for a higher wind speed, improved roof-to-wall connections, grout exterior concrete block walls, and solid laminated exterior windows. Currently, if you look at our middle school and our high school building, they are 293,067 square feet. The new building is planned to be 332,879 square feet, or an increase of 13.6% in square footage. Election Day is coming up on May 2nd, and of course, early voting is already underway. I'd like to offer a few other things before I sit down and answer any questions that you may have, because I know some concerns have been raised about the assessment of our two buildings. The state agency, not the school district, is responsible for doing this assessment. Regardless, we sent to them all the improvements made to our two buildings since their last assessment. And they responded, and the response said that the high school and the middle school, both the renovate to replace ratio is approximately 70% for those two buildings. OFCC has a policy that allows school districts to replace existing buildings if the renovate to replace ratio is above 66%. As a result, both the high school and Warner Middle School are eligible for replacement in the OFCC building program. This information came from John Walden, Chief Legal Counsel for the Ohio Facilities Construction Committee. Also, I'd like to share with you, because one thing I hear from folks is, you know, how are new buildings going to help? We want improved, we want raised test scores. the one measuring stick that's being used right now to measure how a school district does is the state report card. And it's a flawed system. And what I would like to do is take just a few seconds and quote from the Wednesday, September 21st, 2016 Xenia Daily Gazette. 2 local school districts that I consider excellent school districts. We're talking about Greenview and we're talking about Cedarville. Their superintendent said, and I quote, "This particular report card reaches a new level of misinformation and half-truths. In my opinion, history will eventually show, in terms of Ohio educational policy and decision-making, the report card and standard testing area, of which Ohio is in the midst, will be one of the most educationally damaging and financially ill-managed eras of our time. The politicians and legislators should be ashamed of their role in perpetuating this on Ohio taxpayers and voters. This year's results are particularly troubling because in many cases grades went down and expectations went up as the state introduced yet another new test. Greenview superintendent commented, "The tests last year were hastily put together at the state level because of the late legislative decision to ban park assessments. In return, we got tests that were billed as Ohio assessment, but they were thrown together haphazardly, not vetted by the Ohio educators, and the arbitrary cut scores were decided well before results came back in for Ohio students." I consider Cedarville to be an excellent school district, and on the report card, they received an F and 2 Cs. I consider Greenview to be an excellent school district, and they received 3 Ds and an F. Okay? Where I'm going with this is, what we have is, in 2015, Ohio implemented a new assessment system called PARC for language, arts, and math, and AIR for science and social studies. In 2016, they put in a new assessment system, and it changed again. In addition to the new assessment system this past year, the assessments were now given online rather than with paper and pencil. And all this is happening while they're still changing the report card. You know, our results in Xenia are consistent with what we're seeing across the state of Ohio. Now, we're not thrilled with the results, but we're also refraining from overreacting and throwing out the quality programming that we have in place. Our staff has done an excellent job educating our students, and the results on the report card do not reflect the true education that's taking place in our school district. The results from assessments should be looked at as only one metric used to evaluate the success of our district. Unfortunately, the state government continues to push this as the only measure of success. Our school district is doing a great job educating our students, and our community knows it. And that means more to me than what anyone in Columbus has to say about our progress. I'd also like to say, if I may, that it's been asked, well, how are new schools going to help? A recent study was done by Georgetown University researchers, and they found that improving a school's physical environment can raise test scores by as much as 11%. Okay, that was the result of their study. Building design and construction should be student-centered and project-oriented and technology-enhanced. We have an opportunity to provide a learning environment for our students that supports 21st century skills. Learning spaces should be large enough, to allow for multiple learning activities to occur simultaneously. Spaces should be designed to anticipate evolving learner needs, as both student populations and the relevance of specific subjects changes over time. Learning spaces must accommodate collaborative work. Employers today are looking for young people, not that can regurgitate information to them, but they're looking for young people that can show leadership skills, that can communicate, that can work together and have those interpersonal skills. That's what we want for our students in Xenia. Plus, environmental factors such as lighting, air quality, and temperature affect student learning and should be incorporated into our school design, and it will be. The key point I'd like to make, new learning environments are needed to support technology-equipped students working both individually and collaboratively on real-life application tasks. You know, time is running out. This is a limited time offer from the state of Ohio. That $28.5 million goes away come August. And some other school district down the road, if we don't take advantage of this generous offer, some other district is going to be receiving those dollars. Some districts, when they've built new buildings, have come back 6 months or a year later, and they've said, you know what? We need additional dollars to operate those buildings. That's not going to happen here in Xenia. Everything is included in our project. We have done our homework. Also, I'd like to say that one of the questions that I'm asked probably most frequently is, if indeed we build a new building, what will happen to the high school? The high school, I know, is very, very important to this community. But at the same time, we want to offer our students the opportunities for 21st century learning. We have met with and we were approached by a realtor who has said he's been working with developers, and they're saying that on that site they could place 46 to 50 single-family residential homes, and that's exactly the way that property is what?
Zoned.
Is zoned, thank you. I couldn't think of the word, thank you. Thank you so much. It is zoned. All right, so we would certainly want to be community-friendly and a good neighbor. I'd like to also say that I respect that people have different opinion on this issue. And some people are going to vote yes, and some people are going to vote no. And you know what? I want people to vote their conscience. That's important. But I want people to have accurate, factual information. It's been brought to my attention today that there is a flyer that is going around that has so many incorrect statements that could influence our people into voting differently. It does not even have the correct millage rate on it. It's talking about things that are completely inaccurate. It says that our schools are the #1 tornado-safe schools in the United States. There's no ranking. That doesn't happen. All right? It is false statements, and it's deceptive to our voters. On the front, it says that it will cost the owner of $100,000 property value costs $155 per year. On the back, it says it'll cost $215 per year. The actual cost is $147 per year. Where this is coming from is beyond me. The actual cost that's given is incorrect. So I would hope, because I know this individual does not want to do anything deceptive, I would hope that he would certainly go back and redo this, giving accurate information. Mr. Callahan, did you have anything to add?
No, you did great.
I would certainly like to, I don't know if I went too long or not, but I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here. All right, and I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Councilman?
You know, it's very confusing to the general public. On one hand, in your brochures, you say we need new schools. You just said that because there's disrepair in our schools. On the other hand, since 2009, how many millions of dollars has the school board put into Warner and Xenia High School?
I can tell you, that's an excellent question, thank you. And that's why the assessment that we got back from the Ohio Facilities Commission just yesterday was so important. I can tell you that since that time, at Xenia High School,
Is that this?
yeah, there you go, thank you. We have done $1.3 million in energy conservation improvements at the high school. We have done $940,000 in improvements in roofing at the high school. We've done $32,000 in exterior wall masonry repairs at our high school. We have done $54,000 in energy conservation improvements at Warner Middle School. We've done $548,000 in roofing improvements at Warner Middle School and $105,000 in paving at Warner Middle School.
You know, I hope everybody sticks around because we've got some people that's going to dispute some of these facts. And me, I am a strong believer in the First Amendment. If you read the Xenia newspaper, you will hear nothing but positive comments, no negative, no opposing views on the school board. The Xenia Daily Gazette. By the way, I canceled my subscription today after 50 years. I can't take any more of it. And you mentioned all the other test scores. What was Xenia's test scores?
We did not do, I do not have them in front of me. We were primarily Ds and Fs.
They were Fs. Do you
We
know,
had some Ds and Fs, yes.
do you know that the Xenia schools are near the bottom of the schools in test scores in the state of Ohio?
That is an accurate statement.
I'm glad you agree with that.
That is an accurate
So,
statement.
my contention is, new schools don't make good students. If you take Oakwood, you take Yellow Springs, Harvard, Yale, and since we built the 5 new elementary schools, that's a perfect example. Our test scores have gone down substantially. So how can somebody say new schools make good students?
Okay, you raise some valid points, and I thank you very much for bringing that up. However, I do need to disagree in the fact that, number one, you're looking at one flawed measuring stick, and you're saying that, and everyone across Ohio agrees that it's flawed. So therefore, if we're looking at a flawed measuring stick, this is something that, quite frankly, I'm not happy with where we're at, but at the same time, we are making changes with our curriculum. We're doing things that we need to. We are working with professional development with our teachers, so they're teaching how our students learn best. We have programs in place, and that's why, again, this is my 4th year. We are working on, Rome wasn't built in a day. We are going in the right direction. I can tell you that this year, when the test results come out in June, you will see that our average student, or the average students in Xenia District, has made more than 1 year's growth in 1 year of school time.
I can't go by speculation, but again, I want the audience and the TV audience to know, Xenia is at the bottom of the rung in the state of Ohio test scores. That's nothing against anybody. That's just a fact.
That is a
You know,
fact.
my Bible says, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So I think everybody needs to hear both sides of the story. Matter of fact,
Councilman, we have another person who would like to ask a question, so we're going to go around the ring. Mayor, please.
I wish I could say you were wrong, but you are correct.
do I get the opportunity to ask more questions?
We will go around, and when all have been given an opportunity to ask questions, we will start around again.
Mr. Morrison, my question is, can you talk a little bit about what the value is of sharing the spaces for 20th century education, the students sharing the spaces?
Okay. Well, there's all kind of value. First of all, from an economic standpoint. As I said, we'll only have to have one set of kitchen equipment. We'll have one mechanical system. We'll be able to share services like our auditorium. And again, it is going to be 13.6% larger. So the classroom sizes that currently are 650 square feet, and it's very difficult to move around in, will be 900 square feet. All right, which means that our teachers will be able to have students out of their seats, up, moving around, working in groups, working on projects, doing things that they need to be doing that our employers are looking for. All right, so it's beneficial in both ways. Plus, of course, you know, we do have children that are taking college credit plus. All right, so that's an opportunity. But then the real issue is, that I really like to mention, if I may, this never was me, okay? I was never at the top of the class. I was never in the gifted and talented program, okay? But I will say that we have 7th and 8th grade students right now at Warner Middle School that are capable of doing high school work. And we can't provide that to them. But what we'll be able to do now is, once the new buildings are constructed, if that 7th or 8th grader is able to take geometry, they'll walk down the hallway, take that class. We're not offering foreign language to our students right now in the middle school, and that is a shame. All right, that is a shame. But what we'll be able to do, because with shared services, et cetera, what we'll be able to do is, if we have a Spanish teacher or a French teacher or a German teacher at the high school, and they have an extra period that's free, they can go walk across down the hallway and teach a class of 8th graders, so they can be earning those high school credits while they're still in middle school. And of course, the time for our staff to collaborate, the possible student mentoring, all those are just, it's just endless.
Thank you. Other questions from other council members, please? Councilwoman?
I will just say right now that I must recuse myself. I am a city employee, or I am a Xenia Community School employee, so I just wanted to let the audience know why I'm not saying anything, because I'm not able to. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, please? Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Morrison, for being here tonight.
Thank you
I'd
for
like to
asking.
share a statement and then a question. I moved to Xenia in 1998 because of the Xenia Community School System. I at the time, was living in Huber Heights. My wife and I, we wanted our daughter to grow up in community schools, and she got that. So shortly later, I moved my business to the area. We wanted our daughter to grow up in a school where we thought she would be treated fairly, and she was. My daughter Kayla graduated in 2012. She got a 33 on her ACT. She was a class of distinction. She graduated with honors at Miami, and I'm very proud of her. She's flourishing in New York City. So I'd like to thank the community schools for that. But also it is parenting involved in that too. But
For sure.
So
It's a team effort.
What I hear from the frustration from some of the teachers is in the testing system. And I might be wrong at this, and I don't mean to be unkind, but children that have disadvantages, learning disabilities, are also thrown in the mix of the testing system. So if you have a student who is blind, cannot see, cannot read, they are still thrown in that test. So their test score might be an automatic 0. And if I understand right, that pulls that average down. And Xenia gets more of that student because you guys are catered to taking those students in our county. Is that correct?
Again, I don't want to make any excuses. We're not where we want to be. But I will say this, what you're saying is correct. In Xenia, 15.5% of our students have special needs. The state excuses 1%.
Just one.
Okay?
Right.
1% maximum.
Right, so I understand that frustration, but, again, I appreciate you being here and the job that you're doing. Thank you.
And I do think that the parenting part with your daughter was a major,
Oh,
was a
thank you.
quite influential.
Do you know how that,
Hold on there.
oh, I'm sorry.
Your turns.
It's not your turn.
It was
Other
a follow-up.
questions from the council members?
Do I get to speak now?
We still have 2 other council
Oh,
members who
okay.
have not had their opportunity to speak, Councilman. Do either of you, lady or gentleman, have a comment you'd like to make, please?
I don't have a question. My comment is thank you for your presentation. It's very informative, and I appreciate hearing the facts.
Thank you.
I did recall a presentation that you made, I believe, to the Xenia Area Association of Churches, and I would appreciate your speaking to the graduation rates for Xenia high school students. And I think there's something to be said as well. You mentioned that there were the $4.5 million in scholarships last year. That says something for the academic achievement for our students. That also says something about the educational acumen that they've achieved. But the graduation rates have improved steadily over the last 4 years, and I'd like you to speak to that.
Okay. Over the last 3 years, I have that information, okay?
you.
And let me say this regarding graduation. Our students, our goal with all of our students, whether they're in 12th grade or whether they're in 2nd grade, we want them to show 1 year's academic growth or more each year.
Exactly.
Some of our students start with us and they're ahead. Some of our students start with us and they're behind. All right, the parents are sending us the best that they have, and we want to work with every child so that they can be successful. And when we look at our graduation rate, all right, and Mr. Lauterbach is correct, I'm not pleased with where we're at as far as the report card, which I don't care too much for anyway, the report card. But when I look at the fact that our graduation rate tops the state average, and our students, 75% of which are going on and being successful in college. Okay, and like I said, last year, 4.5%, $4.5 million in scholarships. Our parents, our kids, our staff, we must be doing something right. And to answer your specific question, for 2013-14, graduation rate was 86.9 for 4-year. In 14-15, it was 84.8. 15-16, it was 84.2. The state average those years was 82%. If you're looking at 14-15 on the 5-year graduation rate, it was 90.7%. 2015-16, 89.3%. And I don't want to speculate, but I can tell you, this year's graduating class is phenomenal.
Thank you. I have a comment and statement to make as well. I moved here to Xenia some 28 years ago. I heard from all sorts of people that you don't want to move to Xenia. The schools aren't good. My wife and I chose to move here anyway. We chose to raise our 3 children and take them all through the Xenia Community Schools. My 2 sons are grown, very respectable young men, graduates of Xenia High School. They are both gainfully employed and have chosen to live here in Xenia because it is an outstanding community and it has good schools. My daughter graduated last year, also as a graduate of distinction, and is at a college right now on a full ride scholarship. I am exceptionally pleased with her. She is a hard worker, but she is a product of her environment, and a big part of your environment is your school system, your teachers, and your community. And I maintain that that $4.5 million worth of scholarship would not be nearly that high if the schools were as bad as what was portrayed to me 28 years ago. And what I see today is steady improvement. So I salute you for the difficult work that is done. I support you and the writers of those counter opinions 100%, as my entire wife's family comes from an educational background. This testing system is an abomination. It is terrible. It is not teaching or testing to the skills that students need to be successful in life, in my opinion and the opinion of any number of people infinitely smarter in the ways of education than I am.
If I could make 2 comments.
Please.
And thank you for your comments. Xenia is the best kept secret in the Miami Valley. You folks don't hear it enough, but you guys are doing a phenomenal job from this. You guys are doing a phenomenal job from the city standpoint, bringing businesses to the area and just doing great things, providing amenities for our residents. From a school standpoint, I am so blessed because, number one, I get to work with so many wonderful people. I cannot tell you how great our kids are. I met with our seniors to talk about graduation this week. And I mean, not one issue. I met with over 300 students. They were just phenomenal. And of course, what I encouraged them to do was I said, please, after you graduate high school, whether you go into the military, you go into the world of work, or you go on to college, please consider coming back to Xenia because it's a small town atmosphere with large city opportunities. And right now, as superintendent of schools, I get to work with a Board of Education that is absolutely so kid-oriented. I get to work with a teaching staff that is unbelievable. Everyone is working together. And again, I get to stand up here and brag about the things that are happening, but you know what? It's the other folks that are doing the work. But thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you. And I just have one last item to add. As Councilwoman Mills acknowledged and recused herself from the vote as a member of the Xenia Community School staff, my wife is a member of the Xenia Community School staff, but I have consulted with our law director, and as such and stating, I intend to be voting on a potential resolution later on in our meeting. Thank you. Councilman?
No, I just want to clear the record. I've supported Xenia schools all my life. Myself, my 3 brothers, my sister graduated from Xenia schools. We've all done quite well. My wife and her 4 sisters graduated from Xenia schools. We've all done quite well.
Great.
I give an annual scholarship that a lot of people don't know about. So some teachers want to hang it on me that I hate children, very, very narrow-minded. But I do not support the levy, 2 reasons. Taxes, and like I alluded earlier, I don't think new schools make good students. You know, 65.28% of our real estate taxes goes to the schools. 65.28% of your real estate taxes already goes to the schools. And I don't want to misquote, what percent of our kids are on the school lunch program?
What percentage of our kids are on the school lunch program? I can tell you that we have 3 schools right now where we have 100%, and we have, the other schools are somewhere in the area of, I'm going to say 50 to 55%.
Okay, my point is, Xenia is, there's a lot of poverty in Xenia. And when people say $12 a month means nothing, that to a single-family mom working 2 and 3 jobs, that might mean the difference in paying a DP&L bill and feeding their kids. So most of us have been blessed. I can afford the tax, but I'm up to my eyeballs in all kinds of taxes. We have one of the highest income taxes in the state of Ohio, 2.25%. Only one higher than us is Oakwood at 2.5%. So I've got, my main reasons is the tax. I'm not a tax and spender, and we don't have to take the state money. We're not required to take the state money. Other schools did not take the state money. So, I mean, when you say it's a one-shot deal, you don't have to take help from the government. You can do it on your own. So, again, the reason I'm going to be voting no for the resolution, one last thing, in the spirit of fairness, since you were here to do a presentation for the school levy, I asked the council president to put somebody on the agenda against the school levy. I was denied that. In this country, I think everybody has a fair opportunity to hear both sides. And just like the Xenia newspaper will report one side only, I regret to say I asked to put an opposing view on the agenda, and I was denied. Thank you.
Thank you. And in response to that, I am prepared as well. And I will read to you the email that was exchanged on this particular issue. Councilman Louderback did allude to a request for a group to speak against the levy at our meeting 2 weeks ago. On Monday, April the 17th, I had a note written to me by the city clerk stating, Councilman Louderback called this morning to add Norm Ackerman to the agenda as a special presentation. He said you had already approved it. Please confirm. Thank you. I responded, Michelle, this is different than what I recall discussing at the council meeting last week. I indicated that I was prepared to approve a request from a formal organization or PAC to present an opposition view to the school levy. That, of course, this is not in the email, but as I stated when I gave my perspective 2 weeks ago, is a certain right held under the Constitution of the United States, the Second Amendment. Also, I indicated that the group needed to send a formal request to you as the city clerk for the presentation. It does not appear that this requirement was satisfied. From your note, it appears that this is not an organized group requesting a presentation, but an individual representing himself or his views. As such, I'm not approving a formal presentation. However, as in the case at any council meeting, this gentleman is welcome to speak during the audience comments portion of the meeting about a topic of his choice. Now, this email went back to, all on the original emailed copy, directed to Michelle Johnson as the clerk, but copied to Councilman Louderback, the finance director, and the city manager, Mr. Merriman. Mr. Louderback responded on Tuesday, April the 18th at 10:23 p.m., and I quote, "and justice for all." Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If I could make a comment or two regarding Mr. Louderback's comments?
Please.
Okay, first of all, you say it was 64, 65%. I don't know the exact number.
65.28.
65.2%. I would tell you that that's pretty common across the state of Ohio, so that's not out of line. Second of all.
I'm just stating facts.
Right.
I'm not saying it's common around.
No, okay, but it is pretty common. Also, there are 614 school districts in the state of Ohio, and over 330 have taken advantage of the OFCC program to build new buildings. Now, I don't know if any have turned it down or not. There may be some, but I did want to say that 330 have taken advantage of it. And I guess, I know you're against taxes and I'm against taxes, but I'll tell you one thing. To me, 60% paid for to get 2 new buildings is a whole lot better than a few years from now paying 100% to get new buildings.
They will need replaced. They're going to need replaced or repaired at some point. It's either the state chips the money in and we do it now, or we'll do it later. And the taxpayers will still have to put the money forth, because it's gonna have to come from somewhere, either our operating budget,
That's if they vote yes for it.
either way.
Yeah, no.
Then we'll have to make
The
cuts.
taxpayers do have a voice.
Yes, they do have a voice. You are absolutely correct, sir.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, right now, we are operating in a good place financially, but if we have to make repairs or we have to build a new building because we can no longer operate out the buildings we are in, then we will have to eventually, it'll have a ramifications on our bottom line. And that will affect everybody. Thank you.
I thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to present this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have a second special presentation, this one by Councilwoman Mills from the Board of Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities, presentation for plaques for the 2017 Heritage Trees.
Thank you. I am very excited to be able to present this, and I also have Carl Ransom and Nelson King from our tree committee here to help with these plaques. Carl is going to explain what these plaques represent and how the trees were picked and chosen. So please, Mr. Ransom.
Yes, I'm Carl Ransom, Honourable Mayor and Council. I'm Carl Ransom, Chairman of the Xenia Tree Committee. As part of our goals, the Tree Committee created the Heritage Tree Programme, which was approved by the City Council on December the 8th, 2011, and the programme was launched at the 2012 Arbor Day event. And since that time, the committee has received nominations. There's actually a lady that spoke to me earlier, that she received a Heritage Tree nomination, was approved a few years ago. And some of the purposes of the Heritage Tree Programme, we recognise and foster appreciation and inspire awareness of the contribution trees make to the community. And we want to increase public awareness of the important contribution of trees to our cultural and community history and the significant role they play in the quality of our daily lives, and provide property owners with the recognition and reward for preservation of significant heritage trees. And some of the criteria for nomination: a tree of exceptional size, a form or rarity or horticultural value, a tree of exceptional age and or associated with or contribution to an historic structure or district or with a noted person or historic event, and a tree that is prominent, identifying feature of the community, or even a collection, a group of trees in a notable grove, avenue, or other planting.
Thank you, Carl, for being able to explain some of the reasons why we are doing this tree committee. And we are very excited with the tree committee as we are moving forward to become Tree USA here in Xenia, Ohio. And it's quite an opportunity. Grants and other things come along with that prestige of being able to claim that title. But at this time, we want to be able to recognize Dr. Richard Fox. He has a beautiful, and I'm going to call it a European beach. Mr. Ransom might want to call it by its true name.
Fagus sylvatica.
There you go. As you can tell why I called it the beach tree. Please come forward.
I guess sabbatical.
We truly would love for everyone to go out and to see these trees. And on the website, there is the addresses of all these different trees. But it is here to certify that on the 23rd day of March 2017 in the city of Xenia, Ohio, the Xenia City Council, through the Board of Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities and its tree committee, designated the European beech tree located at 1182 North Monroe Street as a 2017 heritage tree. We have a beautiful plaque that we will be able to put with the tree for anyone will be able to see it, and the certificate of having it. Thank you very much.
This tree is 75 years old. That's what our arborists reckon. They go out and measure the trees, look at the trees, work out how old they are. And when I took a photograph of this in the autumn, I couldn't get far enough back. It filled my whole lens to get there. So thank you very much for that one.
We also have a beautiful ginkgo tree, Michael Xenia of 378 Cincinnati Avenue. And again, we are here to certify that on this 23rd day of March, the city of Xenia, the city council, and BRCA has designated the ginkgo tree, also called as?
Oh, sorry. Also, it's called the maidenhair tree. And ginkgo biloba is the scientific name, but it's also called the maidenhair tree.
Okay.
And it actually was found as fossils a long time ago.
And so we also have another plaque of designation for anyone to be able to see, and the certificate thanking our residents of the beautiful tree and being able to take care of it at this time. Thank you very much.
I have another comment about this particular tree, because when the address was given me by the committee, I thought, I recognize that address. I went there, I took a photograph of the base of this tree in 1975 at the first anniversary of the tornado, and it has a train next to it, because it's Charles Street and Cincinnati Avenue, where there was a goods train stopped there. So I took a photograph, of course, April 75. And then all these years later, there's the trunk of the tree. I'm sorry I didn't take the whole tree, but I didn't know it was going to be a heritage tree in all these years later. So thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you very much. I would, thank you.
Oh, the size. Right, the size. Yes, the size. Actually, it's 80 foot high, and it has a spread of about 65 feet. And the age is reckoned to be 150 years old. 150 years old, that old ginkgo tree.
And could you just tell a little bit of the degrees and knowledge the tree committee have? We have people from the OSU Extension Office.
Yes.
We have people from, take it away.
What do we, yes, we have an arborist, another person. Two arborists. Well, we have two arborists, one retired and one just retired. He was at, where was that? Cox Arboretum, yes. And then we have on the committee, we have Nympha, who was a previous planning, what was her?
City planner.
City planner, get all these things mixed up. I spent in my youth at the Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh. We did arboriculture there and other parts of the horticulture. I spent 6 months in the arboriculture department, up tall trees, sawing off branches and things like that. It was okay. I was okay with heights. And we got lots of other people. Help me, Nelson.
Master gardeners.
Oh yes, we have master gardeners on the committee as well who've got the certificates. Anybody else I've forgotten? Yeah, if you'd told me earlier, I would have written them all down.
No.
That's yours.
And what my point is that our tree committee is truly blessed with the knowledge. It's not, there are people that love trees that are part of it, but there are people that have made the plants and trees part of their life and their livelihood. And so we are very blessed in the city of Xenia to have this knowledge, to be able to enrich our community with knowledge and sharing this, being able to pick out these trees, being able to give us the history and that such. I also at this time want to also mention one other person from our tree committee. Her name was Audrey Broyles. And I am sad to say that we have lost this wonderful, beautiful woman from our community. She has passed away. January 1st was her birthday in 1923, and she passed away April 15th, 2017. Audrey was 94 years young. She was appointed to the city's Board of Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Events in September 9th, 2010. Do the math. She was not some young spring chick, but yet she still had something to give to this community, and she gave. She served on the BRCA's Tree Committee since its inception in 2011 and even served as the chair of it. Since her appointment to BRCA and the Tree Committee, she continued to serve in that capacity for almost 7 years. She volunteered at many BRCA activities, including music in the park, movies in the park, the annual Easter egg hunt, and hometown Christmas. She loved working with the crafts and the children at these events, and most recently, she attended the Tree Committee's monthly meeting April 3rd and BRCA's monthly meeting April 4th, where she volunteered to help with the annual Easter egg hunt on April 15th, which happens to be the day she passed away. So up to her last moment, she was giving and serving in this community. She enjoyed nature, gardening, and serving the community where she lived since 1947. This was her hometown, 70 years. She often spoke of her beloved husband, Herschel, who passed away on January 7, 2008. Audrey is survived by one daughter, Barbara, who let us know that Audrey did not want any formal memorial service planned. That's why I'm sharing it tonight with all of us, because there's nothing in the paper, there is nothing planned. She wished to be remembered by her volunteerism and service in the community she loved so much. The city is working with the Tree Committee to dedicate a commemorative tree in her memory. And the Tree Committee was asked their feelings on the possibility of this tree dedication. One member said, "I can hear Audrey saying, 'That's very nice, but I don't know why they dedicate a tree to me.'" And that is so her, so humble, so humble. And another Tree Committee member added this quote by Nelson Henderson: "The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit." And Audrey did all of that. Per Audrey's wishes, like her husband, her body has been donated to Wright State University's Boonshoff School of Medicine through its automatical program. And she is still giving and giving to the students, nursing students, doctors, and other people. So at this time, I would just like to say thank you to Audrey, and thank you for all those who loved her and remember her.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Mills. Before we depart the special presentations portion, my oversight, at the conclusion of the remarks and questions by the superintendent, there is a request for passage of a resolution. I will make the motion to pass the resolution. The resolution reads, "Resolution of support for the 4.1 mil bond measure requested by Xenia Community Schools for construction of new high school and junior high school facilities and declaring it to be an emergency. Whereas the City of Xenia and the Xenia Community Schools are close partners working collaboratively and supportively together to make our city a stronger and more competitive community, and whereas the City of Xenia is dedicated to ensuring opportunities for our youth that enable a bright future with abundant opportunities for them all, and whereas excellence in educational achievement is a significant measure of economic competitiveness for all communities, and whereas the availability of state-of-the-art facilities expands academic programming possibilities, thus promoting opportunities for student achievement and workforce development, and whereas having diverse curriculum, capable and effective instruction, and the proper facilities and equipment are all critical factors that play a role in student success, and whereas new educational facilities would present a positive marketing opportunity for the city, for Xenia, as the city seeks to attract new residents, new businesses, and economic growth, and whereas The Xenia City Council evaluates new tax measures very seriously and only endorses tax issues it feels are critical to community success. And whereas the 4.1 mil bond measure on the May 2, 2017 ballot requested by the Xenia Community Schools would secure funding for construction of new high school and junior high school facilities. And whereas funding from the Ohio School Facilities Commission is currently available to Xenia Community Schools to provide state funding for approximately half the cost of the construction of new high schools and junior high school facilities. And whereas funding from the Ohio School Facilities Commission is available to Xenia in this amount for only a limited time. And whereas in order to secure state funding for school facility construction, the Xenia community will have to commit to funding half of the project through local match dollars that would be generated through the bond proceeds if the 4.1 mil ballot measure is approved. Now therefore, the City of Xenia resolves, Section 1, the Xenia City Council supports the Xenia Community Schools in its efforts to replace and upgrade education facilities and hereby endorses the ballot measure seeking a 4.1 mil levy to provide funding for the replacement of high school and junior high school facilities, and which by extension furthers the educational opportunities of our community's youth and positions Xenia for economic advancement. Section 2, the Xenia City Council instructs that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the leadership of the Xenia Community Schools to provide notice of the Xenia City Council's support for the school's facility initiative, and that a press release shall be issued to the same effect. Section 3, this resolution shall be passed as an emergency to make it known as soon as possible prior to Election Day, May 2nd, 2017, that Xenia City Council supports school facilities improvements and endorses the ballot measure necessary to achieve this. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Wallace.
Councilman Engel, just for clarification's sake, I believe that the actual millage is 4.2, and in the resolution, it states 4.1.
Terribly sorry.
So I would
Let us make
recommend,
the corrections and please accept them as my error in reading. 4.2 mil bond levy in the several places that it is annotated.
Mr. President, I would like to add that the EDAB, the Economic Development Advisory Committee, unanimously agreed in our last meeting to unanimously endorse this resolution as well.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on the motion? Councilman?
For the record, there's 4 members sitting up here has a financial interest in the Xenia City Schools. I appreciate Jeannie Mills noting, and there's 4 members that have a financial interest. I want that to be a part of the record.
Thank you. Mr. Law Director, I have discussed my particular issue with you and believe that there is no issue with my so stating. My wife is actually employed by an elementary school, such that this high school and junior high has no impact on her whatsoever. If others wish to make a comment, they are welcome to do so.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'm probably alluding to the fact that I photograph probably every child in the Greene County. I can't help it that my business is successful. However, I feel my interest is the photographs that I sell are to the parents and not to the school system. The parents actually buy my pictures, not the school system. So this is a resolution in support of buildings that would not directly affect me financially. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment that you're not the deciding body for purposes of this levy. You're only making a resolution of support, and so therefore it's not a violation of the Ohio ethics law to have a discussion and have a vote on this matter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Law Director. Any other questions or comments, please? Roll call, please.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
No.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Reese Clues?
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. At this time, we have a public hearing scheduled for a major modification to a 158.382 acre planned unit development. Mr. Acting City Manager, would you please introduce this before we open the public hearing?
Actually, Brian Forstner is our city planner who has had a great deal to do with this project.
Thank you.
And I actually have a connection to this property, and so I would prefer to just absolve myself of any connection to that particular
Thank
item.
you. Mr. City Planner, please.
Thank you. Yeah, what you have before you tonight is a public hearing. What you have before you tonight is a public hearing and an introduction of an ordinance to update the planned unit development that covers the properties owned by Athletes in Action, National Church Residences, and also property owned by Legacy Christian Academy. The amendment is a simple update and clarification of the zoning standards applying to those properties. The last time the regulations for this property was updated was back in 1999. It is a planned unit development, which is an alternative form of zoning. The planned unit development will expand to encompass all land owned by those three entities, whereas previously it split the properties that they owned into multiple zoning districts. The new concept plan will be the new set of standards governing future development on the property. It is not proposing any significant changes from the trends that you've seen going on in the property. Rather, it recognizes the changes that have happened over time, changes in ownership, and changes in vision for the property since that property was originally purchased back in 1999. So back in 1999, the original concept plan envisioned mainly a single owner campus with lots of different ministries. Since then, it's split into three different owners: Legacy Christian Academy, the school, Athletes in Action, which has grown to take over a good portion of the campus and has competitive sports facilities, as well as ministry, dormitories, and meeting facilities. And finally, National Church Residences, NCR, which owns the assisted living facility and has plans for continued senior housing development on that property. So really, it's a clarification and cleanup of the regulations applying to those properties, and also takes into account the fact that we recently updated our zoning code.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have.
At this time, I will open the public hearing and invite anyone who wishes to speak for this modification to the PUD to step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments to, in the interests of the warmth already in the building, 2 to 3 minutes, please.
Sure. Hi, I'm Peter Battaglia with LJB Engineers, and I am speaking on behalf of Athletes in Action and the other owners of the property. 2500 Newmark Drive, Miamisburg, Ohio. So basically, as Brian had indicated, the campus has changed a little bit. So just to start out, this is not something that the owners requested. As Brian explained, he had been going through the revision of the zoning code, and with the changes in terms of the master plan, and not necessarily the uses, but the intensity of it, the early master plan was very intense in terms of housing and other things, and those things have not panned out to be what is actually going on the campus now. So this change in zoning or in the PUD regulations really helps the city to clarify and make easier decisions on zoning issues. So the owners are all in favor of it. We've worked with the city to go through the different changes, have no objections to what is being proposed, and we're in favor of this change.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else care to come and speak for the modification to the PUD? Seeing none, if anyone would wish to speak against the modification to this PUD, please come forward, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 2 to 3 minutes, please. On the subject of the PUD, if anyone would like to speak neither for nor against the issue, please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 2 to 3 minutes, please.
Hello, my name's John Saraga. I live at 279 North King Street here in Xenia, and I'm here to kind of explain what happened back in 1999. I was honored to serve and work for the citizens of Xenia from 1998 to 2005. As one of my roles, I was the chair of Planning and Zoning for much of that time. As such, I was very much involved in bringing Legacy Ministries to the city of Xenia. I'm here tonight to bring to your attention of a possible apartment complex that I believe may harm the intent of the original PUD, including the points discussed in your agenda item before you tonight. I realize the matter tonight is not about the ownership of it's just about the adjustments to the PUD. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background just in case something comes up later so that you're aware of it. I'm especially grateful to all those with AIA. They've been a wonderful asset to our community. They've brought in a lot of great things, and I'm very proud to have been a part of that. The state of Ohio decided not to fund the Ohio Veterans Children's Home, which was one of many names, and they gave that property to Greene County, and it was located in Xenia Township. I was approached by Bud Schindler, who presented a vision he called Legacy Ministries. And I was on board with that concept all the way. I worked to get support from the county commissioners, the Xenia Township trustees, the city staff, the board members of Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Xenia City commissioners and council members. I say commissioners because that was before had the charter changed. We called everybody commissioners then. There were many changes along the way, but I won't bore you with all of them, and I don't have the time. But I want to show to you some of the reasons that the historical site came to this particular property. One challenge that you're likely not aware of was the competition for ownership of this particular property. The owners of the Outlet Mall near US 71 in Jeffersonville, they had money and they wanted to buy the property, not only the one on this side, but also on the south side of 35. I heard many comments from the citizens, my bosses, and they wanted to save that facility for its historical site. It means a lot to this community, as you know. So I wasn't on board with trying to use my one vote to have it sold to make that a mall, because they were going to destroy all those buildings and put up a mall out there. And so we started to work with Bud Schindler and convinced the county commissioners to sell it, convinced the township to let us annex it into the city, and we did. And because of many funding challenges, the city made accommodations to Legacy Ministries. And there were agreements to support this vision of keeping the historical spots and as many of the buildings as possible. And they did that for many, many years. So what brings me here tonight is I want to use your words in the PUD change. Balance the need of the unity in the campus, design and the preservation of unique site features with the flexibility in accommodating the owner's varied interest. Reflect the development trends that have occurred to the date as well as the future plans while protecting the surrounding neighborhood and negative impacts. I was asked by some friends to come and speak to you tonight. As you know, those streets are very narrow and they weren't built to city standards. They were built with the vision of Legacy Ministries. And that was pretty much a walkway there was going to be horses, so the youth and the seniors could share the walkways together. The traffic was going to be less and few out there. And the infrastructure, specifically the water, was not built up to support a massive amount of people on that campus. What appears is that there's an initiative to build a 100-person apartment complex on the NCR land. This would overload the infrastructure. It would trample the memorial gardens. And most importantly, it would damage the integrity of the vision of those who created that campus and those who live and are a part of it, past and present. What is most important to my friends is that they save their 1 acre of memorial gardens, which they volunteer, these ladies go out there and they've bought stones and flowers and they tend to it to honor all those people that have been there before. They would just want to have a big say in what's going on out near there where they live. I see no problem, by the way, with the Athlete in Action Fieldhouse project. They have proven to be good stewards of the land, and I trust their judgments. I want to suggest that you, as the outlining and accommodating the owners in the varied interests, hopefully in your minds also means that those who reside on the campus and go there, especially most every day. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I urge you to not make a vote that would alter that vision to the original PUD, which was Legacy Ministries. I heard what the city planner said, and I agree with him 100%. I think that because things have changed, it still turned out to be a wonderful vision. I'm proud to affiliate my name with what happened out there. But I ask that you understand that in approving this, that you could bring in this 100-apartment complex, which will absolutely cause a big problem. Now, I will also say that I approve the Right Cycle apartment complex, and nobody wanted it. Hardly anybody wanted it. I had to have police officers come and protect me when I was holding the hearing, the public hearing. That's turned out very well, so I'm not against apartments, and I'm not against what's going, it's just those roads out there can't support it, and there are so many significant historical sites that need to be preserved, and that was all part of the agreement between the city and Legacy Ministries. I know they're new owners, but I hope that they would honor those promises and commitments. I thank you for your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else care on the subject of the PUD to speak neither for nor against the modification, please? Seeing no one more come forward, I would seek, per the agenda item, a request for an introduction of the ordinance tonight, please.
So introduced.
Introduced by the mayor. Thank you very much. This time we have,
Mr. President, is it possible to ask Mr. Forster to bring us back information on that concern raised about the highway and the apartments?
certainly, Mr. City Manager, would you please see to that with some information to council? Also, this evening, just for everyone's interest, this was merely an introduction. This means that the issue will come back again for votes and clarification. So in no way does this introduction particularly pass this ordinance at this time. This time, we have an opportunity for audience comments. Anyone caring to come and address the Xenia Council are very willing to do so. We have a very large audience this evening, and it's warm in here. If you would come to the podium, please, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 2 to 3 minutes, please.
Scott Hallis, Xenia Gazette, 1836 West Park Square. I just want to clarify one thing. Earlier tonight, we were accused of not presenting both sides.
Sir, could you give us your home address?
I'm speaking as a person who works in Xenia. I'm giving my Xenia address.
No, we need your home address.
I'm representing the newspaper, so I'm giving you my work
Councilman,
address.
We allow other people who come and represent themselves, such as the Y and others, to provide their business address. This is no different.
So I want to clarify one thing that was pointed out about us allegedly not presenting both sides of the bond issue. We print all letters to the editor we get. We received one letter against the bond issue, one, and we printed it. I received 2 phone calls last week from 2 guys, said they were against it, and we talked for quite some time. I suggested they both write a letter to the editor or perhaps a guest column. As of right now, did not receive anything. We actually held back 5 letters that were written because they did not fit on the page that we had set aside for our letters to the editor, and because our deadline was Wednesday and we committed to not print any letters after that to allow time for rebuttals, we actually withheld 5 letters in favor of the bond issue to be fair to those against it, to allow for rebuttals. We have not gotten one rebuttal from any letter we have printed in the paper. So if anyone doesn't believe me, I don't delete my emails. Feel free to come to the office. I will show you every email I've received since I started at the paper in 2014, and you will see the one letter against it.
Thank you. Anyone else caring to come and address the Xenia City Council, feel free to do so. Please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 2 to 3 minutes, please.
It's been a long time since I've been up here. Bill Miller, 158 West 2nd Street, Xenia. I actually came to ask a question about my alley, but this is more interesting, so I'm going to skip that part. I'll talk about my sons and my kids. I have 5 kids, all of them in the city schools. You have to invest in your future. You have to invest in your community. If you want good jobs, you want good employees, you want a good factory, you want to have a good school system. Because a good employee is not going to work in the city if their kids can't grow up in a good school system. Invest in the future, invest in this bond issue, invest in new schools. We have old schools, and I don't want to say anything about my age or anyone else's age, but Dale, you brought it up that you went through these school systems. When you went through them, they were new schools.
No, they weren't.
So
No,
they
they
need
weren't.
new schools now.
No, and I didn't have air conditioning in schools.
So we need to have some new schools. It helps our housing market. It helps the housing value. We're leveraging money. This is a temporary tax to leverage this money so we can build
Temporary tax, it's a
So-
37-year tax.
Councilman, we don't just
So,
debate.
No, I know, but he's making some statements.
Councilman,
that are not true.
we don't debate during audience comments.
If it's 37 years, it's only temporary.
Oh, really?
Life is life. So I just want everybody to understand that I'm here for other reasons, but because of this, I am talking about the schools. I'll call the city manager's office tomorrow and figure out my own problems later. My son graduated last year in the same class as the president's class. My son also got a very large scholarship. I'm very proud of my son. My daughter's in high school now. And my son behind me, Connor, who doesn't want to stand up or get embarrassed, is in middle school right now. And I've gone to Warner. Trust me, these buildings were not built to last forever. They weren't a monument standard. They're very hard to maintain. And I think this is the time, the place, and the best way to leverage the money to do it. So there's my support. I appreciate your time. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Carol Usher. I live at 810 Boom in the Legacy Village. And I'm looking at the ordinance that you all said is a discussion tonight. And so one of the questions we have is that there's a section of the land that's designated for hotels and drive-through restaurants and offices and retail sales and services. And I'm not sure that fits the idea of keeping that as a campus that is part of the PUD. So I don't know if that was original, but that seems very strange to me that that would be part of it. I know some of it on here says that there'll be land that will remain open space, and that's great. And I know that we did not, as residents of Legacy Village, we, I guess, are not considered homeowners because of the unique way that we pay to live there. So we didn't get notice of any hearings until all of a sudden there was some other stuff going on and we started looking at what was happening. So I'm glad to hear you're not voting tonight for the whole thing. And I don't know what the process is that I need to go through to say, we objected that one piece, but I'll find out what I need to do. Or if you can tell me now, that'd be helpful.
Please contact the city's appointed officials, and they can provide you information.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Lauterbach. I live at 3366 Wyoming Drive, and the way I feel about it, the voters are going to, they voted this down before, and it's up to them. It's none of your business. It's not my business. Each person goes into that poll and they vote the way they want to vote. So let's put that aside. I came tonight because I saw in the paper last week the city of Riverside posted for the public what their inquiry cost to try to boot out their councilman. And I would like, as a citizen of the United States and the city of Xenia, to know exactly what the city of Xenia council cost me as a taxpaying citizen for your little inquiry. That was a waste of time, in my opinion. So that's my request. I'd like to be published in the Xenia Daily Gazette, just like it was over in the Dayton Daily News. And way to go, brother. You got the Xenia Daily Gazette mad at you.
Hi, my name is Diana Steen. I live at 377 North King Street here in Xenia. And I appreciated the comments from Superintendent Morrison. I'm the little lady that contacted John at the Chief Legal Counsel at the classroom agency, the commission in Columbus, for clarity. And this was pursuant to a letter drafted and sent by a law firm in Cleveland telling a former principal who is also, are you ready for it, an All-American Hall of Famer, granddad of a West Point cadet, and that cadet is currently being courted by the NFL, that he was banned for life from any and all school property because he had a difference of opinion. I don't know what you know about Norm Ackerman. He is the general of Ackerman's Army, and it is gone international. There are some emails floating around the globe right now, and this is what started stirring people up. Additionally, I felt as though we needed clarity. I am an interior designer, but when I was beginning my career, I did my practicum and an internship with Royalty Parish Architects and Engineers, the largest school builder in this area. All of the Kettering schools, all of the Centerville schools, several of the Miamisburg, Springboro, Dayton, the laboratories at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the post office in downtown Dayton, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you that there is no more highly charged political activity than the interactions between schools and communities. But there is a right way and there is a wrong way. And the wrong way is to attempt to persuade by saying anything. And so when I saw the photographs that were attached to the papers that were the assessment reports that were on both the Community Schools website and the Board of Ed website, and I realized that those were old, I contacted the office of the Chief Legal Counsel for clarity, asking if there were in fact more recent assessments, more recent documents, because obviously those were old. He was lovely to me. I spoke with the two people who prepared the assessments, and I want to make it very clear, this was not particularly for Xenia. There was pursuant to a lawsuit that the state of Ohio was ordered to employ consultants to go through the state and inventory every single public school owned building, whether in use or not. That began in 2001, got into sure footing in 2002. They got to Xenia in 2007. And that was the date of that assessment. And it was the relaying of information to the community that everything had been static, totally unchanged for 10 years. Obviously, that could not have been true. That would have been a dereliction of duty on the part of the school board. We began the conversation. I had a wonderful opportunity to speak with the individual, Paul Brown, who had conducted the assessment. He's been back here recently because he's now currently working with Yellow Springs. As far as it's now or never, that actually is not true. The Ohio Facilities Commission does not dictate. They are a service entity. They are there. They were designed primarily as an offshoot of the Ohio Architect's Office to provide services for those communities that were either poor, remote, lacking in business members of the community that could shoulder the responsibilities of constructing and updating school facilities. So when you see how much the school facilities is paying, those are administrative and managerial costs. Those are not material costs of the building. Those are supervisory, negotiating, budgeting,
Excuse me,
and all that
ma'am.
overhead.
I requested 2 to 3 minutes. You're at 4.5. Would you please wrap up so we can
I'd be
address some
happy
other?
to.
Thank you.
If we could afford it, I would be very much in support. However, just like Fairborn, when they were eligible to get it together to do some construction a few years ago, they were in a financial crisis. They deferred participation in the projects. They are now embarking on them. If Superintendent Morrison had known anyone in Fairborn, he would know how you can pick it up and go later. They also are very flexible. It does not have to be a replacement. It can be renovation, it can be adaptive, and it can be reuse. If I'm being curtailed on my time, I appreciate the moments that you have given me. I will, of course, be voting no.
Thank you.
I'm going to start out here with the comments that Dr. Morrison made about scores. Because this is, oh, I'm sorry, this is Stormin, Norman, Dale, if I were a minister, I'd say a prayer after Dr. Morrison points of interest. But anyway, to set the stage for the Xenia Community School Bond issue, this community needs to know that the K-3 elementary scores, after being in those schools for a minimum of 3 years, was 4 Fs and a D. 4 Fs and a D. Those scores are worse than when we were using our old buildings. So this doesn't show anything except buildings do not teach. The GPA for every school district in Ohio, Xenia City Schools rank 584 out of 608. We're 24 from the bottom. There is no county seat school with a population between 15 and 30,000 that is behind Xenia. Xenia is the worst school district of all county seat schools in the state of Ohio with that population. The second point, I'd like to ask the president, am I allowed to ask you a question?
Sir, you may ask questions, but this is your time to address
Okay,
council.
all
We
right,
do not
okay,
debate.
all right. The Xenia High School building was built as a non-load-bearing wall building. between 2007, when that assessment was made, that identification was changed by somebody in the board office to a load-bearing wall. They're saying that the bricks are what holds up that building. And that building was built to last 150 years. It was built so that you could put 16 classrooms over the shop classes, take the population up to 2,500. That building was built to add a whole third floor to take the student population up to 4,000. So the engineering in that building was such that when I spoke to the #1 professor of wind structure science out Texas Tech, he indicated that Mr. Thomas was about 80 years ahead of the current research. One of the comments that was made in the brochure put out by the superintendent's office is that this new structure is going to include all the features of the 316, FEMA 316 or 361 and ICC 500. And speaking to one of the largest construction companies in Dayton, the least you could build that kind of building with would be about $400 a square foot. The gentleman in Texas Tech indicated that there is no building outside of the high school building, the central building, and the 4 elementary buildings, the one of which you're about to sell, that are all #1 tornado-safe buildings. Unless that building that is being built, is recommended to be built, like the 5 elementaries that were built, have no load-bearing walls, they are not tornado-safe.
Sir, you are also now at 4.5 minutes
Right.
time. Please wrap
And
up.
I'm going to wrap this up real fast because this is going to be the thunder. Here are the evaluations, assessment evaluations at the high school done in 2007. On here, it says it was, date prepared was 2015 by Tim Brockblader, and date revised 2015 by Paul Brown. That is false. That never took place. Also, based upon the work permits that I got from the county office for Warner and the high school for 2007 to 2015, all $48 million have been repaired. These 2 reports sent to the state of Ohio.
Sir, you're now at 5.5 minutes. Please wrap up.
Yeah, these two documents that were sent to the State of Ohio Facilities Committee are fraudulent. They are the basis of the 2/3 rule. And I just one little simple arithmetic problem. 2/3 was multiplied by, because 2/3, 20,000 or 20 million would not be enough of a repair to cover by a 30 million building. So they multiplied it by 2. And it indicated we got to come up with $40 million worth of repair if we're going to build a building for $60 million. Unless I would be able to see the 2007, I would be able to show that most of these figures were recomputed to meet that status. This bond issue to build this building should never have gotten off the ground because of these fraudulent papers that were sent to the state of Ohio. Can I add one more comment?
Sir, you're at 7 minutes and
Yeah.
counting.
You
Your term
made
is
a
completed.
statement that I
Sir, your
was
term
here.
is completed, please. The council sets time limits. Thank you. No. Sir, your time has significantly exceeded. Thank you very much for your comments.
No-
If
no more-
anyone else would care to come and make a statement to
I
the
can't
Xenia
make a
City
single
Council.
comment more.
Sir, your council time is concluded.
Yeah.
If
I'm
someone
just
would
saying
wish
that-
to come and speak,
Yeah.
else speak, thank you very much.
There are
Please
over
take your seat.
8,000 people who voted no. I
Sir,
represented that
you're out
group.
of order. Please return to your seat.
Thank you. You go to church?
Sir,
People want to hear.
we insist on decorum in this meeting. Please confine yourself to the decorum of the meeting.
Mr. President,
Mr. Law Director, please. Mr. Law Director,
just to keep
please.
things moving, you want me to set a timer and I can
Please
have
do,
it go
sir.
off and then that'll be the end?
Thank
What
you.
do you want? 4
I
minutes, 3
asked
minutes?
3 minutes. Please set it to 3.5 for courtesy's sake.
Mr. Law Director, I'll sit here all night to let these people speak.
That's fine, I'm just,
No, why do, I'll sit here all night. I've got all night. Let them speak.
Councilman, the president of council sets the time limit for comments. I have set that. Order, or I will suspend the meeting.
You already are.
Council is out of order. We will suspend the meeting until the audience can come back into order. If order cannot be restored, I will clear the room for the remainder of the meeting. We are adjourned for 5 minutes. Turn off the camera, please.
There's a bathroom in that hallway. Oh, I don't have my keys. I have my husband's keys.
Here, baby. I know, but I'm just saying, yeah.
Is that our officer didn't stay long enough? Did he leave?
you doing?
Good, no problem. It's the taxpayer's place, that's right. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Oh, yeah, we just heard about it last week. I thought Michelle sent something, I don't know if she sent it just to the tree committee members or if she forwarded it on to the rec members. Yeah, that was shocking, yeah. Pretty amazing. I mean,
How you doing?
Right. You said a lot.
From who? Oh, my mother. Mother. Did she leave? She would never leave us. Are you kidding me? She's
I know.
I agree with you.
That's what I think.
Councilman, how are you? Haven't made your acquaintance. I've seen you around.
He was with us last year.
Yeah, I've seen you around. You wearing that long tie like a president.
Yeah, right. I noticed that today.
Go down one back.
Can we get the
Yeah, I'll go get it.
just at any time, just bring it up.
Look back in the video room, I don't know, talking to Keith, video.
You have a job? My mama put it up here apparently. Yeah.
Good evening and thank you. We're ready to resume the meeting.
No, but you never.
If the audience will come into order, please.
Chicago.
We are ready to resume the meeting. We are still in audience comments. I will remind the audience and all present of my caution before departing that any further outburst from the audience, the time that the speaker has will be suspended, audience comments will be suspended, and I will clear the audience for the remainder of the council meeting. Ma'am, if you would please provide us your name and address, limit your comments 2 to 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. My name is Holly Bledsoe Bennett, 2536 Ridge Road. So thank you for hearing me for a couple minutes. First of all, information is free. I work in the information business for the American Chemical Society, and I feel like everyone should take that upon themselves. Listening to someone else is important, but getting information for yourself, I think, is more important. Everyone has the right to vote yes or no, and I do respect that opinion, but I feel like sometimes maybe people are going a little bit too far here. Actually, when they started this journey with the committee and investigating what we should do with the schools, they actually opened up the high school and Warner, and I think I was one of 4 people that actually went and toured the facilities. None of the people that I see here were actually there. So when I toured the school, it was one of the first times that I had been in the high school since I graduated in 1992, and I can tell you I was shocked at what I saw. So I became a full supporter right then and there because I have a 7-year-old, and right now she's at Tecumseh, and it's beautiful. She has a fantastic education. She's getting to use a computer. She's doing fantastic on her testing right now, and she has a great teacher. So money's being offered until I think August. Don't quote me. You guys can find out for yourself. That means if we don't take it, we're going to have to come up with the money by ourselves. And that means 100%, not just 40%. So what does that mean? If we don't come up with the money, that means we have to come up with 100%. Well, I was in Xenia schools in the 90s. We couldn't pass a levy then. So what did that mean? We went down to state minimum accreditation. I couldn't go to school. I had to go to Wright State. I had to go to UD to take classes because you guys couldn't offer me classes in Xenia High School. It failed me, but I thrived. I graduated, I went to Ohio State. I have a fantastic career, I have a fantastic family, and I came back here to Xenia. My husband is a business owner, and we heavily support the schools. I'm gonna vote yes, my husband's gonna vote yes. I hope everyone out there will vote yes. I don't want my daughter to end up back in the situation that we were in the 90s, and I'm fearful from a long-term perspective. If we don't get this done today, what does that mean down the road? I feel like we're gonna be back in the same boat. So I just feel like we haven't had short-term and long-term thinking, and I felt like I just wanted to bring that up tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Christian Steen. I live at 377 North King Street, Xenia, Ohio. I know we're pressed for time. I have a big stack of papers, so we'll get through this real fast here. Okay, first one I have here. Auditor's report, State of Ohio, dated March 27, 2017. We have, this is in regards to the Xenia school budget. We're on page 3, and it's about the fiscal year forecasting. And this is very fresh. They don't even have it in paper form yet. The school district is seeing a need for new money in the foreseeable future. The 5-year forecast emphasizes that a surplus of revenues over expenditures will occur in fiscal years 2017 and 2018, but deficit spending is projected thereafter, meaning that even if the 4.2 levy is passed to fund these new schools, shortly after that, they're going to come back to the taxpayers again for more money. They're going to run out of money. So even if they do the pass into the 4.2, which is on the backs of the taxpayers, it's going to be even more money. They'll come back to the taxpayers again. And I follow the money. And the next thing I want to point out is the signs you see around town about the support the schools and all that. Well, it's a PAC. And with PACs, they're supposed to be separated. The organization and the PAC they're representing have a wall between the two. And here we have the PAC papers from the Board of Elections, and we can find out who is pushing for this. And we see that the contributors are RBC Capital. That's Royal Bank of Canada. They would be the bond underwriters. They would be making $3 to $7 million, maybe more. They gave $1,000 to the PAC. Pretty good bet. Give $1,000 to make what? $5, $6, $7 million. Pretty good on that. I'd do it. We go through the whole long list. There's not a single Xenia address here except for Ready Electric. So we have lawyers of Cincinnati, architects who would be the architects to build the buildings. So we have all this thing here, and it all goes through page after page after page after page of money given by interested parties to the PAC because they see this measure as a way to get rich on the backs of the Xenia taxpayers. That's all these interests wanting to do. Get money by the levy, they'll get paid. That's what they want. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Julie Reed. I live at 2268 Capistrano Drive in Xenia. I really just came here tonight to listen to both sides. I feel people do have a right to their opinion, but this has to do with Scott. Scott with the Gazette? Scott, I'm sorry, but I have to debate with you. I think the Gazette is very prejudiced. I can't believe that all the against the school levy letters were too big. Now, I've had a personal conversation with you before. I think you're very pro-majority of the council. There was, as you know, there was a lot of turmoil with the Kalp-Louderback situation last year. I wrote you a letter. I wrote you several. I had a personal conversation with you. You called me and said, Julie, your letter's too long. Now, you just said the letters were too long. I think out of a few of those against levy letters, you might have called a few people and said, your letter's a little long. Since we want to put in both sides, why don't you cut that letter? Like you said to me when I was commenting on the Kalp-Louderback turmoil. But you said, Julie, I'm going to cut that letter a little bit and I'm going to put your letter in. It never went in. End of my comment.
Good evening, Council. My name is Carrie Bazzelli. I live at 378 Hill Street. And I am voting no for this levy because we've been living here for 21 years, and there is no way that when I'm 96 years old, I'm going to be paying on a school tax. This is 37 years on the backs of homeowners. We have no support from the city. We haven't had a repaving on our street for the last 22 years. There's no way that I want to support the school until we see some support from the city.
Hi, my name is Todd McManus. I live at 25 Renaissance Woods Court in Xenia. I respect everyone and all the opinions that everyone's given, and everyone can vote yay or nay. Everyone's already talked about, like, the kids, you know, do that for the kids deserve it. And I'm all for that, and that's actually why I'm going to vote yes. But I looked at it from another standpoint. I actually went on Zwillow.com and found out that in 2013, the average home in Xenia was worth $95,000, give or take. 4 years later, which is now, 2013 was actually the year that the schools were built too, the elementary schools. Now, the average home in Xenia is worth $109,000 on Zwillow.com. That's a 15% increase in 4 years. I'm not saying the elementary schools had everything to do with the 15% increase, but they had something to do with it. So over 4 years, if you're paying $12 a month, that's about $580. In 4 years, if you can make 15% on your home, that's $15,000. If you make 10%, it's $10,000. If you make 5%, it's $5,000. So even if the schools only raise the property value by 5%, people are still making north of $4,000 in a 4-year time with this investment into the schools. Again, I have 2 kids, 7th grade, 4th grade, and I'm all for the schools and everything that Denny said because of the educational opportunities. But if you're not going to look at it in that term of it, look at it in the terms of an investment. What other investment can you give that'll give you this kind of money? And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Hodson, and I live at 1699 Gayhart Street in Xenia. I had a question about the property at 35 and 42. I just wondered if that land has been purchased yet by the school, and or does that come in the package with the tax issue? And I also wondered if the school levy does not pass, and if they have purchased that land, then what would happen to that property? And I know the owner of that property, of the residents of the house, the owners of the cornfield, I don't know them, but I just wondered too if they were able to get a fair deal as the school purchases this property. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. I would call your attention to, as this is not a city issue, we're essentially just allowing audience comments. I would ask you to speak with Mr. Morrison or the school board committee members, please.
Good evening. My name is Ryan LaFlamme. My address is 1714 West Galbraith Road in Cincinnati, Ohio. I do not live in this fine community, but I am proud to represent the Xenia Community School District Board of Education. I'm here, I just want to address specifically the allegation that we all just heard previously that the school district is somehow responsible for fraudulent reports of the assessment being submitted to the state of Ohio. They are not responsible for generating those reports, and they do not generate those reports. The state generates those reports, and the reason that those assessments change from time to time is they are reassessed over time. There are changes in market conditions, there are changes in building conditions that require a reassessment of those tools. So this is nothing that the Board of Education actually generates, and to say otherwise is false, and I just want to point that out to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thomas Bazzelli. I live at 378 Hill Street here in Xenia. I'll be voting no against the levy. I was not raised here in Xenia. I was raised up north. And up north, it's not the building that makes the education. It's the teachers and the parents. You got to change the attitude of the teachers, change the attitude of the parents involved, get support from the community, and that's your education, not the building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Matthew Bennett, 2536 Ridge Road, Xenia, Ohio. Also co-owner of Anderson Williamson Insurance Agency here in fine Xenia, Ohio. I'm up here to talk about one thing, children. It matters today. It'll matter next week. It'll matter the month after. It'll matter 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You can't have a base on a house that doesn't have a great foundation. We don't have a great foundation in this community. People don't understand it's just a building. But that building houses these students. The building itself is deteriorating. The money that we'd have to spend to rebuild this building is astronomical. So take the education part, it's still going to continue on. You're still going to get the same education next year. You're still going to get the same education the year after that and the year after that. But would you like to have a facility that will protect your children, that's not leaking, that does not need repair every day, that does not need somebody to make sure that the doors are safe? It does not have the locks that they have here on this new building. You know, we've seen all these school shooter situations, and I'm an insurance agent. I do insure the school district, and I worry every day about the safety of those children. Because if somebody would come into that school, like any of the other schools that we've seen, our schools aren't set up perfectly like the new schools are today. Like the elementary schools, you have to lock in, you have to be buzzed in to get in. Those are issues that we don't think about in this community. These children are not as safe as everybody thinks they are. We can make it better. We can make it better for a long, long, long period of time. Yes, we all hate taxes. We all hate the opportunity to pay more money. We pay it here on our income tax. We pay it income tax to the schools, and we also pay property tax. But at the end of the day, it's not about what we, have to pay. It's what we should pay. We should pay to have a great education for our children. And that's the first thing I was taught when I was a child, is to give my child the best opportunity. And this is the best opportunity for my child. Not from only a brick and mortar situation, but for a safety situation long term.
and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else care? We have a standoff. Someone needs to go.
Mr. President, Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of Xenia City Council, citizens of Xenia, and ladies and gentlemen at home. My name is Thomas Scrivens, and I still reside, by the grace of God, at 725 Lexington Avenue here in the city. And I rise from my seat this evening just to change the tenor of the contention here this evening to talk about street repair. And, hey, you know. And I see that that our public service director in his wisdom has selected a number of streets: Weaver Street, Rockwell, Portsmouth, Tennessee Drive, Joyce Drive, Monroe Court, Glover Drive, Orient Avenue, and an alley leading from Lexington Park down to North Patton Street for repair. Unfortunately, he missed on Colorado Drive, he missed on West 2nd Street, East 2nd Street, East 3rd Street, and Ottawa Drive, and a number of people who've called me from their streets saying, why isn't it getting repaired? Well, I don't know exactly how many miles of streets that we have here in Xenia, but every mile can't be repaired this year or even next year. So for those of you who were not selected, don't blame me, because I'm lobbying to get your street paid. Now, shifting from that issue, 42 South was repaved recently, has sidewalks, curb, and gutter. We can't say the same for 42 North. I attended Xenia City Schools back when I had hair. And I had to walk down US 42 every day, both ways, going and coming. And at that time, it had railroad stone on the shoulder. If we can't get sidewalk, curb, and gutter, at least give us a shoulder that we can walk on. I see now young ladies pushing baby carriages, and they dodging traffic in and out of the street. That's a travesty, and that needs to be addressed forthwith. And we need to get off our duff and make some improvements on the state highway. And I would hope Engineer Bob Geyer, my high school classmate, will take an active role in that. One other thing, I see we've painted some of the curbs downtown yellow. Makes a big difference. It makes it look like that we're trying to clean this place up a little bit and make it livable. Everybody here has a vested interest in not only the aesthetics of the city, but what we produce. Like you said, the buildings don't make a difference. I was educated back when it was separate and unequal, but I still pursued education, and I obtained one. As a matter of fact, my undergraduate education, I had to shovel out the animal cages at the university to earn an education. Okay, so this ring is indicative of I did real work. I had to shovel in order to get my between the black box here. So, to support the schools or not support the schools is a question you have to ask yourself when you look in the mirror every morning. Okay? I'm going to support because they gave to me something that's intangible. I'm going to support the coach of a football team that coached a winner every year he coached, and as a result he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was the defensive coach, and you all know that the best offense is a good defense. And I can only say that people have asked me to run for this august body, and I told them I've already had a 5-heart bypass. I don't need the hassle. Okay, but I love these people. These are my people. Okay, and like whatever they want, they're going to get. If they want a clean city, they're going to get one. If they want trash picked up more than once a month, the bulk items, they're going to get it. So in terms of the schools, you know, it ain't the building, it's the teachers, the parents, and the community. But the environment makes a lot of difference. And Mr. President, I'll yield back the balance of my time. I thank you for the opportunity to address this body and this important deliberations. Thank you again.
Billy Carrico, 606 Sutton Drive. I have a couple statements to make. My first statement is, Mr. McManus, I think? Yes. I am a very successful realtor, and we do not use Zillow. So if you want more accurate information, you need to go to a realtor or realtor.com. In our brokerage, we're not even allowed to use Zillow. We're not even allowed to recommend it to our customers. It's very inaccurate and it does not have updated records. You will not find actual totals or market evaluations on your property on Zillow. Secondly, Mr. Lauterbach had mentioned about Xenia having a lot of poverty. We have a lot of poverty. We sure do. Then there's a bunch of us that are trying to be successful. We're buying properties, right? We're going to have to pay all the people that we're taking care of in this poverty-stricken town. We're not only paying the property taxes on our own properties, but if we buy investments to make your town a better place and bring it out of poverty, you're going to nail us with property taxes on every single investment that we make. We're not paying you. That's what everyone's thinking. Oh, you're going to pay it off your house. You're going to pay it off your house. What about our investments? What about us trying to build Xenia? What about that? So if I own 5 rentals, I'm going to be paying 6 property taxes on this levy for 35, 37 years. I want you to think about that. I want the people at home to think about that. I want the landlords to think about that and the investors to think about that. We need to think about our poverty and we need to think about how to work together as a community. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Miles. I live at 2746 Jenny Marie Drive, and it's a privilege to address this group, Mayor Bayless, and the council. My time is short. It's been said in the Bible that without a vision, the people perish. And I've been a resident of this city for 5 years. I came from Minnesota, originally from North Dakota. My parents, though from the South, made a decision to stay in North Dakota. Yes, I am a chocolate Norwegian. Don't let it, fool you. I cut my blonde hair off just for you guys today. But my parents made a decision to stay in North Dakota primarily because of education. Every person who's gotten up here this evening, for the most part, has done something very interesting. They've taken a piece of paper, they've taken their eyes with comprehension, and they've read because they're part of the 1% of this globe that is allowed to go to school and have an education. Now, this is one of the most incredible cities. There is so much potential in this city, and it's evident by the robust conversation that's happened here this evening. Now, I'm preparing to move. And one of the first things that my wife and I did was check the local schools. We can talk about all we want to. Some people say, don't hate the messenger, hate the game. The reality is, social psychology says that when before a person walks into the room, they make 11 judgments in 7 seconds before they make a determination to open a door, to enter in, and even have a social relationship. I noticed this evening on this astute council that all the men up here are wearing ties. That's really an interesting choice. I don't know all of you. I know some of you. I respect your work here, but for some reason, all of you chose to wear a tie, basically signaling to me at least that there's something about appearance that really does matter. And so Princeton and Oakwood and Harvard, great schools, have friends who graduated from them. And one of the things of those communities is that there's an intellectual, professional, trade, and capital of that community that are a part of the people who make up that community. And as a business person, as a parent, one of the first things that I want to know from my 4 kids is can this community give my children the education that they need in the world that they're living in? If you cannot, I will be looking for some other place to live. Now, I came here, when I first got here, the schools were older buildings. I had heard that they were building new schools. That was exciting. I was happy to pay for that, and have. And I've met some incredible people who are trying very hard in our school system to make this a better place. And I encourage you to continue in that pursuit. But I need to say, it is important to pass this resolution. You might not feel, and I respect, I have a number of friends who actually own their own Keller Williams brokerage.
That's time.
Please,
Thank you, sir.
Please wrap up, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
wrap up now?
We've been trying to
Okay.
keep time.
All right. All that to say, thank you, guys. I'm going to vote yes, and thanks for everyone's discussion.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
Good evening. My name is Eric Soltis, and I reside at 1970 Daffodil Drive, Xenia, Ohio. And I am the treasurer for the school district. And I just want to make a couple of comments on addressing some of the other remarks that were made this evening. Specifically, it was called attention to the fiscal year 16 auditor's report from the Auditor of State's office and a lot of the details that were involved in that respective document. Each year, the district is audited by the Auditor of State's office, and there are many, many criteria that they're auditing for. And one of the documents that is also within that is the 5-year forecast that was also mentioned earlier. What I would describe as an individual who has my name on the 5-year forecast is that it is a document, it is a tool that helps the Board of Education make decisions in terms of the finances. It is a snapshot in time. Immediately after it is approved, there are hundreds of assumptions that go into this respective document. After it is approved, it is almost as equally out of date because things change instantly. And it is our job and duty to continuously stay on top of things. One thing that was not mentioned with regards to the respective audit is that the district had no findings. And I take great pride in that, not only from a personal level, but from also the other individuals that I work with on a daily basis. This is paramount because I believe that it is essential for the taxpayers of the school district to be able to operate as effectively and efficiently as we have. Fiscal year 15, the district earned the Auditor of State's award, and we are awaiting potential notice from the Auditor of State's award for earning the Auditor of State's award with distinction at the district. That is the highest award that the school district can receive for financial audit. Also, there were some specific remarks about the levy committee, if you will, Support Xenia's Future. And RBC was mentioned, the Royal Bank of Canada, as a contributor to that respective fund. The assumption that is made that the district has already essentially made an agreement with RBC in moving forward. That is not the case. No decisions have been made with an underwriter. And what was not mentioned was that RBC is a prominent underwriter in the state of Ohio. They are up there in the top 5 to 10 underwriters in the state of Ohio. So just because they have the name Royal Bank of Canada does not mean that they do not have a prominent position as an underwriter in the state of Ohio. I am proud of the work that's being done at the school district level, and I understand that the impact that this particular issue will have for the community of Xenia, and I hope and urge the voters to strongly consider supporting this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heather Henry. I live at 1400 Hickman Road here in Xenia. And I came here with one of my children this evening to hear what everyone had to say. And I respect everybody's opinion in this room. It takes a lot of courage to come up here and say what you feel. So I'm going to say what I feel. I have 3 children in the Xenia school system. I used to be a student myself. I moved back here in 2013, and I was so grateful to see the new elementary schools that now one of my children is in, but 2 are in Warner. I have a very bright son and another bright son. I think that what it comes down to is the fact that you cannot put a value on these children's future. They deserve the best. I get that having that extra expense, property taxes, the money that is there in front of you on paper, it's intimidating and it's an extra expense you don't want. Mr. Latterback, you talked about single moms and the difference between buying groceries for their kids. Well, while I'm not a single parent, I do live in poverty. We struggle every day. But if I had the opportunity to support the children of this community who are our future, I would most definitely find a way to pay for that. Because when we're old and gone, these children are going to be the ones doing exactly what all of you are doing. They are going to be the ones working in this community. And when they hear that there are so many people against giving them better opportunities, what would that make them feel like? What does that tell them? Have any of you sat down with these students and asked them what would they like for their future? Would they like to be able to have the technology that is coming every single day provided to them? Would they like to have safe buildings? Would they like to have a positive environment? I get it. Buildings are buildings. It's all a perspective. You teach your kids to be humble and appreciate what they have. However, they deserve to have the best that we can provide to them. I really feel in my heart of hearts, and God tells me this, and I'm a Christian, we need to set aside the almighty dollar aspect because that is setting a limit to their future. And I can't stress that enough. I really can't. These children matter. We need to show them that they have our support. You know, that's going to give them the encouragement. And I'm sorry that I'm going over time. I really am. But it's important to me. I have a 10-month-old son, and if these schools were made available, he would have those opportunities. I think about that. Think of the long term. Don't think about just what you see on paper. Look at your children. Look at these children. Talk to these children. And that's it. I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
Mr. President, my name is Dr. Robert P. Delaplane, 1293 Galtide, and I'm in real trouble. Probably a lot of the folks around here know me. I've delivered at least 50% of the voting public at this time. And I have something that I would like to say. I do not think that the object of this discussion tonight is whether or not we're going to reward Mr. Morrison for good grades. I think the object of the discussion tonight is, are the schools as they are, Warner and the high school, good enough to last another X number of years? And that's the decision each of us have to make. Bear in mind, when Warner was built and the high school was built, they were built for a slide rule, or maybe it's a slide ruler, I'm not sure because I haven't used one in 50 years. And they were built, their internet equivalent was a card catalog in some musty library room. That's what those schools were built for in the early 70s. If the issue passes, or when the issue passes, our 5-year projection will show, contrary to what has been said tonight, the model that we're using and providing that the state of Ohio continues with its present funding, we will not be requiring any operational funds for approximately 10 years, any operational new money. And that is very much different than our neighbor in Jamestown who went back in 6 months. If the issue passes, if the issue does not pass, then we, the voters, need to consider When the elementary schools were built, the city collected 2.25% income tax off of non-Xenia construction workers, which figured out to about $400,000. That is a couple of potholes that were spoke to tonight. We have looked at the issue not passing, and we've modeled our 5-year forecast. If we put money into renovation and repairing the defects and bringing the buildings up to standard, and we set aside and budget money, something we've never done, budget money for repairs other than our permanent improvement levy, in 3 years, we'll be in negative spending. In 5 years, we'll be below the red line, meaning we can't close out. So I do believe it's up to the people to decide. If we go below the red line, then we start having to make accommodations to our expenses. 80% of our expenses are pay and benefits. One can figure it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please? Seeing none, we will move on to reports of committees. Councilwoman Mills, BRCA, please.
Thank you. Our last BRCA meeting was held on April 4th, and we had discussed many items. And I am talking like this for those who are not with us, as there's a lot of people leaving right now, so I'm just giving them a moment to be able to leave. We have a lot of great things happening right now with BRCA. We are looking forward to the Bloom with Xenia Adopt-A-Spot. Volunteer Day is May 6th, and so we're asking anyone who wants to come out and volunteer with us. You know, we would love to have them. Adopt-A-Spot is still going on strong, and that would be, you can contact Nelson King at 266-0868. And or his email address at nubertx@yahoo.com if you would like to adopt a spot in Xenia. It is a wonderful opportunity to be able to add to your own community and to be able to take pride in something that you have adopted for the season. Another item that is coming up very quickly is the Youth Fishing Derby. That will be Saturday, June 3rd from 9 a.m. to noon at Shawnee Park. This event is free for our children, and our children's ages are 4 to 15. We have on-site registration, and it begins at 8:30, and then the fishing begins and ends between 9 o'clock and 11:30. There will be presentation of trophies, many prizes. T-shirts is a great opportunity for the kids to get involved. There's food, there's all kinds of activities, so it is a wonderful opportunity to come out and support Xenia. Another activity that is coming up really soon that we discussed about is the Arbor Day of 2017 on Friday, tomorrow, the 28th. We will be planting trees, 2 trees at Shawnee Park at 10 a.m. If you would like to come and partake in that, we would love to have you. And then on Tuesday, the 9th of May at 1:45, Arrowwood Elementary will be getting a tree planted there also. And it's really a nice opportunity how the tree committee partners with the schools and getting the children involved in planting the tree, how to plant the tree, a lot of education opportunities there. The annual Easter egg hunt was a huge success, and I'm going to ask Miss Sarah if she could tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. We had, I don't have a head count completely, but we did have several hundred children. My estimates were between 300 and 400 children, probably about 600 to 700 people in the park itself, possibly a little more. We had students from National Honor Society come out and volunteer. We had a lot of churches volunteer. The Xenia Area Association of Churches and Ministries supports the program. They finance a lot of it, and then we have a lot of representation from the churches come out, and they pass out material, they help volunteer. Pastor Will Urschel from Emmanuel Baptist actually gave a presentation to the kids, and he did a great job. I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank our council and the mayor. For those of you that could come, you did, and others of you donated a basket. Very much appreciate that. Xenia Police Department and Fire Department was present, and they were very helpful. The fire department actually gave a donation this year, the union, and we had several baskets from them. Strong Tower Media was there, and they actually DJ'd and provided music and speakers for free. That's 93.7 and 100.7, the radio stations. BRCA, of course, and I believe that covers it. It was the Easter Bunny was there. We had a lot of fun, so and it was perfect weather.
Thank you very much for giving us an update. I was actually visiting my son that I had not seen since January at his military base. So I hated that I missed the Easter egg hunt, but it was so great to see my boy. So I thank you, Sarah, for updating us on that. Community gardens are available May 1st. You can call the service center at 376-7265. And that would be a way of getting in touch with them if you would like to get a garden spot. And lastly, we are talking about hometown Christmas already. So it is a great time to be in Xenia. There's a lot of great things happening in Xenia. And again, for myself and BRCA, we just want to say how much that we're going to miss Audrey and all the things that she did. She was an example of what each and every one of us should strive to be. Always involved in your community, always trying to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for Councilwoman Mills and BRCA, please? Seeing none, Vice President Smith, Planning and Zoning,
Thank you,
please.
Mr. President. Xenia Planning and Zoning Commission met on Thursday, April 6th, with one item, which was the proposed major change to the planned PUD at Athletes in Action Legacy Christian Academy and National Church residences. That was endorsed by the Planning Commission, and that was our actual public hearing for tonight, which was introduced by Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything for Vice President Smith and Planning and Zoning, please? Mayor Bayless and our city manager is on vacation. So would you deliver the mayors and managers, please?
Sure. The mayors and city managers met on April 12th in Kettering, and both the city manager and I were there. Information was given about the concern for lead pipes in communities. It appears that our community of Greene County submitted 8 maps to the Ohio EPA and a verification form that no lead service lines are present. The county's map identifies areas that have potential to low risk to extremely low to no risk area. Our end result was no known lead services. And of course, this was unlike some of the other communities around us, particularly Oakwood, because they have so many older homes. So there is no danger for Greene County.
Yay.
Thank you. Anything for Mayor Bayless, for mayors and managers, please? Councilman Louderback, MVRPC, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did not meet the 1st of April. We will convene again on May the 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for MVRPC? Councilman Louderback, please. Seeing none, we have items from City Council and Mayor this evening. The first is a reappointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mayor, please.
Thank you. Mr. Josh Long, originally appointed to the BZA on April 14, 2016, and Mr. David Harrison was originally appointed on December 11, 2014. Both their terms expired on April 11th of this year, and both gentlemen had expressed a desire to be appointed for 4-year terms. Unfortunately, after the meeting packet was published, Mr. Long had a change and withdrew his request to be reappointed because of his job, mostly. But I do want to say we certainly appreciate the service that he gave to the Board of Zoning Appeals, his wisdom, and just he was very dedicated at that. Therefore, I am respectfully recommending that Mr. David Harrison be reappointed to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a full 4-year term expiring on April 11, 2021.
Thank you. I have a motion to reappoint. Is there a second? Seconded by the Vice President. Discussion or question on the motion, please. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And I would like to say, Mr. President, that we now have a vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals, so if anyone's interested, it's exciting sometimes.
If you do have interest, please submit a letter of interest or email to the city clerk, Ms. Michelle Johnson, and she will staff that letter to the mayor and BZA for consideration of an appointment. Anything for the mayor on this particular subject? We have a second reappointment to the Economic Development Advisory Board. Councilman Wallace, please.
We have a second reappointment and as well as a new appointment.
Sorry, getting a little late.
Ms. Teresa Felder was appointed initially to the Economic Development Advisory Board on February 11th, and her term has expired, and she requests reappointment, and we're recommending that she be reappointed. And Mr. Kennedy's appointment term expired, and he was requested not to be reappointed. And we are recommending that Ms. Diane Dixon be appointed to the, should I do those separately?
Probably a good idea to have separate appointments.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just do Ms.
So we have a
Felder.
motion to reappoint.
Ms. Felder.
Is there a second,
Teresa
please?
Felder.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on the motion, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And Mr. Joe Kennedy's term expired on April the 25th, 2017. However, he did not wish to be reappointed, which created a vacancy, and Ms. Diane Dixon expressed an interest in being appointed to fill the vacant term that expires on April 25th, 2021. Her letter of interest is attached, and it was in your packets, and she was recommended by Mr. Montgomery, and so I readily and enthusiastically endorse her appointment. And on behalf of the EDAB, I recommend her appointment.
Thank you very much. I have a motion to appoint. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Just have one very small question. Usually there is a background check or something run by the city against all appointments to boards. I don't see that annotated on here unless I'm not reading it properly. Do we know if that's status?
I don't know the status of that.
I
I can
don't
certainly
know
check and
either. I
find.
I
assume
don't know
that
if we do that for economic board.
We don't?
I don't think we do.
It's not commissioners.
It's late in the evening. I retract my comment. Roll call, please.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Is there anything else under items from city council and mayor that should be brought forward at this time, please? Seeing none, moving to reports of city offices. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Council President. The first item I have tonight is related to the Downtown Safety Improvement Project, which staff and council have discussed numerous times. It's a project to enhance the downtown experience for bicyclists and pedestrians and improve safety for those who traverse Xenia downtown in a variety of using a variety of transportation methods. The process is moving along and construction is scheduled to begin August 1st. ODOT plans to advertise and sell this project to prospective bidders on May 25th, 2017, and requires executed documents from the city no later than May 8th. This timeframe does not allow for the standard 2 readings of a resolution, and for that reason, to avoid delaying the project, staff respectfully request the council waive the second reading of a resolution at 2 consecutive meetings and adopt as an emergency a resolution adopting final legislation and authorizing the city manager and finance director to enter into an agreement with the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio and execute all necessary documents for pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety improvements to Detroit Street and West Main Street. Staff also requests that the finance director be authorized to sign the fiscal officer's certificates.
Thank you. May I have a motion first as an emergency, please?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to waive second reading of resolution and adopt as an emergency final legislation authorizing our city manager and finance director to enter into agreement with Department of Transportation, State of Ohio, for the pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety improvements to Detroit Street and West Main Street.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion or question on this first motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Ahead of yourself. And now a second motion, please, to authorize the finance director to sign the fiscal officer's certificate.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mills, seconded by the mayor. By nose. Any discussion or question on the second motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
The second item I have for council's consideration this evening is a request for authorization to enter into a contract with John R. Jurgensen Company to complete the 2017 street program at a cost not to exceed $401,092.06. The program will be completed through the Greene County Engineers Office as approved by City Council on April 13th. And I think it's important to note that in addition to the annual street program, the city has budgeted in 2017 local costs for grant-funded projects that will pave portions of Bellbrook Avenue, South Progress, and Detroit Street, and improve the intersection at Hospitality and Main. Approximately $995,000 local dollars have been appropriated for street improvements this year, resulting in a total 2017 investment in streets of more than $3 million when you include the grant portion.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to authorize the city manager to enter into
So
the
moved,
contract?
Mr. President.
Moved by the vice president. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
On March 23rd, council authorized the purchase of 2 truck cab and chassis. Since that award, bids were open for the purchase of 2 service body packages. J.W. Devers was the sole bidder, and being that the bid was within the parameters of the budget, staff recommends an award of bid to J.W. Devers and Sons in an amount not to exceed $85,720.
May I have a motion, please, for the contract for the truck bodies?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mays.
I'll second.
Second by the vice president. Discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Bids were advertised for the Glady Run wastewater treatment plant aeration tank distribution project and opened on April 13th. 3 bids were received, however, each bid was in excess of the budgeted amount. Staff is requesting that council reject the bids opened April 13th, 2017. Staff has a meeting set for set for next week to discuss the approach to addressing this infrastructure project moving forward.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to reject these
So
bids?
moved.
Moved by Councilman Wallace. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Our next item this evening is related to the slip lining of sanitary sewer lines. For several years now, council has set aside dollars as a part of an annual infrastructure program to address aging sewer infrastructure. Slip lining is a cost-effective alternative to the total replacement of sewer lines. Generally, in this process, little excavation is required, thereby creating less inconvenience to the customer. In situ form Technologies submitted the lowest bid, therefore staff requests an award of bid for the rehabilitation of sewer pipelines to In situ form Technologies in an amount not to exceed $225,000.
Thank you. A motion, please, for the bid for rehabilitation.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mays. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
As everyone's well aware, in 2016, City Council approved some fairly significant changes in sanitation service, and those changes have generally produced positive results in recycling rates and reduced tonnage being taken to the landfill. One piece of the program that has not met the service needs of the community is related to bulk pickup. Currently, Rumpke picks up bulk items one time per month, and customers are limited to 3 items each month. Council requested that staff request a quote from Rumpke to add a second week of bulk pickup, and staff did make that request of Rumpke. However, in staff's opinion, the cost for that additional pickup was not justified, and that the level of the service being provided was still lacking. Staff began to evaluate other options and landed on a different option for council to consider. Staff would like to provide the service directly by hiring one additional laborer who would enhance the service capacity of Public Service Department. Bulk collection would be offered multiple times per week at a minimal charge of $2 per item to city residents. This change would also enhance the city's ability to quickly remove refuse left at the curb outside of the program guidelines. A $10 per item fee would be assessed in those occasions where the code violations occur. Of course, the city would provide details on the program to the public over the next few months prior to implementation. One other issue related to the new program that staff would like to address is related to the replacement of missing trash carts. Staff requests an amendment to the fee schedule, adding a fee cart replacement fee in circumstances where an abuse of the program seems to have occurred. Staff requests that council consider the recommended items, action items to amend the sanitation program.
Thank you very much. A number of action items for this particular item. First, I need a motion to waive the requirement for a public hearing to amend Xenia Codified Ordinance Part 2 Administrative Code Title 12 Fees, Chapter 298 Fee Schedule.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the vice president. Discussion or question on this first motion, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now I need a motion, please, as an emergency, to adopt, or excuse me, to approve the requested supplemental appropriation in the form as described on our agenda report.
So move, Mr. President, as a emergency to adopt the ordinance approving a supplemental appropriation.
Thank you. Moved by the vice president. Second, please.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Wallace. Discussion or question on this motion, please.
I have a question.
Yes.
I just answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now, an introduction of the ordinance amending Xenia Codified Ordinances, Part 10, Streets, Utilities, and Public Services, Code Title 6, Other Public Services, Chapter 1060, Sanitation Service.
I'll introduce.
Introduced by the Vice President. Thank you. Now, an introduction of an ordinance amending Xenia Codified Ordinances, Part 2, Administrative Code, Title 12, Fees, Chapter 298, Fee Schedule.
I'll introduce.
Introduced by the mayor. Thank you. Now, an introduction of an ordinance amending Xenia Codified Ordinances, Part 2, Administrative Code, Title 6, Administration, Chapter 260, Employees Generally, Parts 260.03, Pay Sources.
I'll introduce that, Mr. President.
Introduced by the Vice President. Thank you. And finally, a motion to authorize the city manager to add one laborer position to the authorized personnel listing. I will make that motion. A second,
I'll
please.
second that.
Seconded by the Vice President. Discussion or question on this last motion, please. Councilwoman.
I will be voting no on this. I feel that there is other needs in this community at this time that, as the trash system was set up, if it was done properly, it would work. I realize that people have problems with bulk items, as I have a grill and a lawnmower in my shed right now. So I understand that you have to wait for the right time to set it out, and it can be cumbersome. But I also believe that there are other personnel needs equally as important, if not more important, and at this time, I just cannot vote yes to add one more person to the maintenance department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question on the motion, please?
Can this be done on a trial basis?
We could certainly approve it and then at some point in time revisit it to make the change, correct?
Thank you.
Correct. I mean, we're always evaluating what the most effective way to provide service is. Now, I will say, if you're authorizing the addition of an employee, it is always difficult, until there's another opening to make a change. Typically, we would not want to bring this employee on a trial basis per se, and then let them go if it doesn't work a couple of months down the road. Obviously, as employees leave, we could leave positions unfilled. We could always lay them off. It's just not ideal. That's not the scenario that we would want to play out.
Councilman.
I'm also going to be voting no. I think Rumpke thinks they're the only game in the town. And to be quite honest, I think the city got out-negotiated in the contract with Rumpke. I think this should have been addressed in the original contract. So I'm going to be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question on the motion, please?
I will say I'm voting no as well. My personal feeling at this point is I'm not ready for this position yet, and I know that you've been researching quite a bit. I'm just not there. I want to still consider some other alternatives.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question on the motion, please?
I understand the rationale for the no votes. However, I know that our constituents want the trash picked up, and I certainly want it off the streets. So for that reason, I'm voting yes. And I totally agree with Councilman Lauterbach that I'm not ecstatic, not at all that happy with Rumpke. And when we get ready to renegotiate that contract, we probably ought to reconsider that. But on the other hand, we need the trash off the streets, and if we have to do it ourselves, we have to do it ourselves. And this is one option of doing it ourselves, and we can revisit this at some point later. But now we need to get the staff in place and get the trash picked up off the streets.
Can I make one clarification?
Please.
I want to make sure I clarify that I think the city staff has done a phenomenal job of researching this. I am not criticizing their work on this, and I am very appreciative of what they have brought to the table. It is my own personal, I'm not ready. So I just want to make sure that I say that the city staff has done a great job. Thank you for this option.
And I want to ditto that. You guys,
We asked for options, you gave it to us. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or question on the motion, please? I would offer to my colleagues that we have all heard from them that they, as Councilman Wallace has pointed out, want the trash off the street. We have heard that in any number of council meetings. I will be voting yes because this is the most cost-effective option that is available to us. Any other comments, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Yes.
Choke on the gum.
Councilman Lauterbach.
I don't know, too much
No.
excitement.
Councilwoman Mays.
No.
Councilwoman Mills.
No.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next item that we have for you this evening, it's related to the 2017 Community Housing Impact and Preservation Grant, also known as CHIP, and it improves housing opportunities for Xenia residents who qualify. City staff has determined that it would be advantageous to partner with Greene County on this endeavor, and the city would be eligible for $225,000, and the county would act as the lead applicant and implementer of the program. The city and county partnered in a similar fashion on the 2014 CHIP grant, and staff request that council authorize the city manager to enter into a partnership agreement with Greene County, which will subsequently allow the county to apply for the fiscal year 2017 CHIP grant on behalf of the city.
Thank you. A motion, please, to authorize the city manager to enter into the partnership.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mays. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
That is all I have this evening.
Thank you very much. Anything for our city manager or acting city manager this evening, please? Seeing none, Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. One item this evening, scheduled bills in the amount of $327,234.25.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to pay our bills this evening?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mays, second, please.
I'll second the motion. We pay bills.
Second by Councilman Wallace. Discussion or question on our bills, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank
Just
you.
one other quick item that I'd like to point out to council and to the public. You know, we've talked quite a bit about our ability to help residents in assisting them in their city income tax returns and auditing and filing. And between March 1st and April 18th, the city income tax office processed 2,925 returns, which doesn't count the assistance that was given for extensions and other returns that were prepared but not turned in, and also took in over 2,000 tax payments.
Wow.
So I'd just like to commend the office staff for the work done through this tax season, and also commend the city manager's office, because some members of their office obviously assisted as well to get through this tax season. So, and also I think there is some movement. I think we saw some legislation, or at least some word from the Ohio Municipal League on the issue of the centralized collection, and that may be taken out at least in one form of the House committee. So we'll see how that, I don't think that's a final deal. We'll see how that ends up. So there's some positive news going forward.
Thank you. Anything for our finance director this evening, please? I would just echo, I think someone else had commented at our last meeting that our citizens were very pleased with the new manner in which they are able to pay their income taxes, not sitting shoulder to shoulder with their neighbors as they're going through this rather private affair. So thank you to your staff, and thank you for using the facility to its exact intended purpose for just that kind of private transaction. Mr. Law Director.
Okay, thank you. We have a second reading of 4 ordinances this evening. And first one is ordinance amending section 220.11, salary of city council members of chapter 220 of Title 4, Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Xenia, Ohio, by adjusting the salary of members of the Xenia City Council, originally introduced by Councilman Louderback.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Louderback. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion or question on the motion, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
No.
Councilwoman Mills.
No.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Point of order. You seconded the motion.
Oh, I'm tired. It is 10 o'clock. If we need to redo, I will take back everything I said. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to move forward. So,
Mr. Law Director.
Do we want to substitute second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second in the motion. I am pretty tired. I did catch that.
Thank you for
Thank
catching
you.
it, because I did not intentionally do it on purpose. I mean, I had no written down here long before I even seconded it, so, I mean, so sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
As the bell tolls.
I'm human.
Next, we got an ordinance to waive competitive bidding to purchase a replacement of the Durapatch tank from North Coast Products in the amount of $28,025, originally introduced by Councilwoman Mays.
Move for passage.
Moved, seconded, please.
I'll second that one too.
Seconded by Councilman Wallace. Discussion or question on this item, please? I think we're all getting a tad punchy. Seeing none,
I'm ready
roll
to
call.
go.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have an ordinance amending ordinance 17-03 to make adjustments and appropriations for current expenditures of the city of Xenia, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2017. Originally introduced by Councilman Wallace. This is for the purchase and installation of a new cooling system at the Justice Center.
And I'll introduce it again. I'll move the passage.
We would request that be introduced as an emergency.
Passed.
Or, sorry, passed as an emergency. a couple of, I think Brent had mentioned this last week.
Yes.
I think the intent was to get 2 readings on this particular issue, but being the nature of the issue, making our 911 system as reliable
Yes.
as possible, and also our intent to move this through the process as quickly as possible so that it does not interfere with other improvements that are happening during the remodel of that facility, we would request that it be passed as an emergency.
So you
So
change your
moved.
motion as an
Absolutely.
emergency?
As an emergency.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on this item, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Walls.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless. President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract without formal competitive bidding with Weibel Energy Systems for the purpose of purchasing and installing a new cooling system for the radio room at the Xenia Justice Center, originally introduced by Mayor.
And again, the same thing, we would request it passed as an emergency.
Okay, I'll move it be passed as an emergency.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Walls.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anything for our law director this evening, please? Seeing none, moving to reading of communications and discussion. Councilman Lauterbach, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Past my bedtime, I have nothing this evening.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mays.
Thank you. I just want to remind folks that Legacy Christian Academy and the production of Wizard of Oz is this weekend. It was last weekend and also this weekend, Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. And I'd also like to congratulate Ayana Marcus in an incredible, beautiful dance recital that was on the 22nd, Dancing My Way Through. It was an incredible experience of dance. It was worshipful. It was body, mind, and soul. So congratulations, Ms. Marcus. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Wallace.
I'd like to welcome our law director, temporary law director back. Good to have you here.
Thank you, I enjoyed it.
And I'm like Dale, Councilman Lauterbach, it's past my bedtime too. I have nothing else for the sake of getting out of here.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mills.
We have a lot of wonderful things going on in this community, and I just want to encourage everyone to be involved, make a difference, and check out Explore Xenia, because that is where you're going to find out great information about our community and the happenings of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that our bedtime?
Is that your bedtime
That's my
alarm?
bedtime alarm.
I see. Mayor.
There's time in each council
I'll
member.
go quickly. Let me see. Let me just highlight some of this. Well, we had a wonderful meeting with the 4 area mayors. We met in Beaver Creek and also with the representative from Governor Kasich's office. The Easter egg hunt was excellent. Thank you for all that you do for that. I attended the International Flag Ceremony at Central State University, and that's always real exciting. This time there were 3 more countries that are now represented on their campus, and they have flag poles and a place for each flag. So it was really great, and especially to listen to the students talk about their own countries. Ribbon cutting at Fast Mike's Oil and Lube. It's across from Groceryland. So if you have not been there, you need to check that place out. And I'll tell you to look at the restrooms because they have some interesting. well
noted.
Yeah. They use old license plates for the toilet paper hanger. It's just really nice. So just take a look at that. But it's a great addition to our city. And then I want to congratulate the inductees to the Xenia School Foundation Hall of Honor. They were John E. Bowman, our own Douglas Kent Cope, R. Gregory Cross, Janet Kendrick, Kathleen Seagraves McCormick, and Bill Schumacher, and they call him Shoe, music teacher. And all this year, all happened to be Xenia High School graduates. And then this morning, I attended the Green Giving Luncheon. I want to congratulate Marlene Elliott. She's very involved in the Pass It On program. I think it's housed at her church at Westminster.
Westminster.
And the program does allow people to receive gently used household items, and these are items like furniture and appliances, so it's a very worthwhile program. I also attended the Miami Valley Regional, what's that other initial stand for?
Planning?
Yeah, planning, their annual meeting and dinner that was held last week. And then finally, this afternoon, there was a presentation at the Greene County Library presented by our own Mary Crockett, and Barbara Bradfute was there, as well as Josie Reno and architect Steve Advokoff. And they talked about the potential for our Carnegie Library, and that it has been given that historical registration. So a lot of ideas were generated, and it ended in a tour of the old Carnegie Library, and that brought back great memories. And our Councilman Louderback was there as well. That is it.
Thank you. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing else this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one item. Our first Fridays is a week from this Friday. So with any luck, we will have great weather, and we will be able to start off the late spring, early summer season with a fabulous downtown event. Unless there's something else from any of my colleagues, I would ask for a motion to adjourn this
So moved.
rather long
Second.
meeting. Moved and seconded third, and from around the table, Louderback, Wallace, and Mays. Roll call, please.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bailiff.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Aye.